Greetings, fellow Amblemites. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And welcome to the 5th season of Spielberg Month. Steven Spielberg doesn't do audio commentary on his own work. We thought we'd do it for him. After all he's done for us, it's the least we could do for him. Since we're getting near the end of Spielberg's vast catalog and want to keep the party going as long as we can, this month features a duo of modern Spielberg projects neither of us has seen before, as well as a tribute to one of the man's longtime collaborators. So grab some baklava on the way to Munich and mount your oars! Let's point the cameras towards the very eclectic collection in this year's
Spielberg
Month. All right. Oh boy, Dragon, this is a long one. We got a lot to get to. I'm gonna fire off my thesis really quickly, so you can just kind of go into your stuff here. Dragon, I gotta tell you, this is, of course, the first time that I've seen this movie. I've watched it a couple times. I've watched it a couple times in preparation for it. This is not a one-watch kind of movie for me. So I have done my due diligence with this one. Dragon, the only thing I knew about this movie going into it was, do you remember the knocked up running joke?
Not particularly.
Okay, the knocked up, you know the knocked up with Seth Rogen and Katherine Heigl.
Yeah, I know the movie. I'm just not sure
Okay.
what joke you're pulling right now.
In the movie, there's like this big running joke where all the characters have this big respect for affinity. Yeah, thanks for Munich, because it's a movie about Jews kicking ass, and it's you got like Seth Rogen and Jay Baruchel and everyone like that, and they're just like praising this movie as like the the action hero, the action movie to end all action movies for the Jewish community. And Dragon, I gotta say, this movie's not that. It's really not that. I think, oh boy, I think this might be one of the most clinical movies in Spielberg's filmography, Dragon. I really do. I'm not quite sure how to feel about this one, to tell you the truth. I respect it a heck of a lot. I don't necessarily think I enjoy watching it all that much, but there's so many things I do respect about it, though. I just feel like I don't know. It's not a perfect movie, Dragon. It's somewhat disjointed in the plot. That it's one of those movies where I kind of feel like I'm on the outside looking in on this one a little bit, because I see everything that Spielberg's trying to do with it, and it's very ambitious, and we'll talk about it. We've got 3 hours practically to talk about it and discuss this. I feel like this is going to be a very intellectually stimulating debate, Dragon, just because of the nature of this movie. But like I said, I respect this movie a heck of a lot. It's one of the most ambitious Spielberg movies, just from a sheer globe-trotting scale, and kind of just tackling real political events in a very, very heavy-hitting way. It's kind of like the more obscure. I don't know, Dragon. I feel like it kind of rests somewhere neatly in the middle of Saving Private Ryan and Schindler's List in terms of the Spielberg war epics, and I kind of think it gets lost in the middle between those two juggernauts. So I respect it a heck of a lot. I don't think it's nearly as watchable as the other two, and we'll get into certain reasons why. I just think this film, overall, Dragon, I'm just going to say it, I think this film kind of has a pacing issue to it. I really think this is one of those movies that there are specific entire subplots I think could be cut out of this thing. But we'll get into it, and I think it should be a fun conversation.
Yeah,
so what are your thoughts
Tiki?
on
that 2 hours and 40 minutes just flies by. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. Okay.
Oh God! So what are your thoughts on Munich?
Okay, so my thoughts are, this is a very unique entry in the Spielberg catalog, because it's not 100% a historical movie or a biopic. It's kind of, here's the thing. It feels like Spielberg's most politically divisive film without intending to be at all, because he doesn't really intend this to be a political movie. It's but it has a political setting, though. That's the interesting part. It's a film about revenge and justice and the toll that it takes morally on a person.
Mhm.
So for me, it's very interesting you brought up the whole, the Seth Rogen, the Seth Rogen comparison you kind of had there with Knocked Up. But here's my comparison I had with it. So I watched Hunters recently, and Hunters is very much Hunters is kind of in the similar boat as this movie, which was kind of a surprise to me. Like, oh god, we're kind of doing that story with this, where Hunters is all about essentially it's like it's to me it's fascinating to explore Jewish people dealing in revenge versus as we talk about later in the movie, kind of the righteous approach that they're very kind of well known for. They're very they're very kind of pro-righteousness. Like, violence shouldn't beget violence. We shouldn't kind of measure violence with violence. We should take the high road, essentially. Which Hunters is very much getting your hands dirty with getting revenge, and it's like so
I really
rarely
need to watch Hunter's Dragon.
See, Hunter sounds like that's the Seth Rogen thing that he really would have been referencing. Bear in mind, would not have been made by them, but you know what I mean, though. It sounds like exactly the thing he's talking about. That's like, again, it's Tarantino meets Schindler's List. That's what Hunters is. So. Mm-hmm. Or I guess maybe a little bit of Munich now with that too. The point being, this is that's Jews getting their hands dirty, getting revenge, and this is more about kind of the pursuit of that as well. So again, it's very interesting to explore this sort of topic, very akin to something like Hunters. So I mean, I like the movie, but maybe it's a little too ambitious in some respects. Here's the thing, because the whole Israel and Palestine conflict, it's not for everyone. Not for me, really, because I can't wrap my mind around it personally. I mean, again, I know it's an important issue, and people always, as we see in the movie, people have gotten killed over. It's very, very serious stuff. It's a tricky issue, though, and it's just like, but
I think this is the time we play our self-deprecating, we're the whitest men on the internet card. Dragon.
Yes. Yeah, we're not interesting. We don't have a conflict going on. Okay. Anyway, so anyways, my point is, like, here's the thing. While it is kind of politically about stuff that I can't really get into personally, it's that I love that the core of the story is all about revenge, and that's the main through line of the whole story. And I think Spielberg knows that. Again, he's not making a political movie, but he's making a film about revenge. And I feel that is present. That's why I can that is what I can wrap my mind around, and that's what I really like about the movie. It's putting the revenge before the politics or the politico of it all. And of course, the interesting thing about this movie is this is kind of during Spielberg's kind of his post 9/11 phase. Mm-hmm. Spielberg has three movies. He has Minority Report, he's got War of the Worlds, and then he has Munich. Each of these films are kind of a different response to what happened there. Where again, you have prevention with Minority Report, you have the event itself with the War of the Worlds, being people like a tragedy happening and people being dusted before your eyes, and of course Munich, the retaliation. That's what this movie's about. So again, So the point being, the parables of terror then versus now, it's very interesting. It's a very interesting movie, and I do like it, but I'm not head over heels for it.
I'm glad we're on the same page. This is definitely. I feel like this is one of those movies where it's like everyone respects it.
Yeah,
but it's very divisive in terms of whether or not it really clicks with you.
Again, this is excellent filmmaking, but by the same token, it's not like the one that's going to make the album. If you catch my meaning, it's not like I don't think people are going to be going home saying like Munich like they would be with E.T.
Well, I mean, and to be fair, I think the proper comparison would be more something like Saving Private Ryan.
Sure. Fine. There's the better comparison, but you see what I'm saying, though.
There's different branches of Spielberg is a man who plays in many different genres, Dragon.
He does. But still, even within the historical dramas, it's not one that kind of is going to ring the same bell as the other ones, like Schindler's List or Saving Private Ryan or something like something historically set or vice versa, however you want to frame it, or Bridge of Spies. Like I would go to Bridge of Spies before I'd go to this.
I would definitely go to Bridge of Spies before this.
Because again, Bridge of Spies, I love the movie with one scene being the exception. I'm not crazy about the whole the big effects scene, but take that out of there. I love the movie. I'd sit down and watch it. This one, I respect it. I have to carve out time. Okay, I'm going to watch Munich again, versus hey, Bridge of Spies. I might just go sit through that and watch it.
And they're both kind of around the same length, right? I mean, I think Bridge of Spies might be 20 minutes shorter.
About that, yeah. It's over 2 hours, and it's kind of in the ballpark, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so let's get into the background, Dragon. Please, by all means, make this quick and entertaining.
All right. Okay, so folks, 1984 guy writes a book, George Jonas. He writes a book literally called Vengeance. And basically this, it's pretty much for the longest time, this was the only account about what happened during the Munich massacre, because it was very hush hush in terms of like, the insider knowledge about what happened. Kind of like, again, it's very much blacked out documents and stuff of the like from the Mossad. It's very much like people. It's not something people like to talk about because of the sensitivity of it, but again, it was an event that was seen globally because of the Olympics. So for the longest time, I think this has changed. I think people now, after this, and this is why people are scrutinizing this a little bit more these days, now they know more about what actually happened. They're like, wait, that didn't happen. But they took liberties. So a producer by the name of Barry Mendel, he tried to adapt this for 8 years. Eventually, it lands on Spielberg's desk. Spielberg loves it. He loves the book. He loves like, oh man, I love to do a movie on this. But he had to shelve it for a while so he could work with Tom Cruise, because you notice around I think like 2 movies come out in 2005 or like 2004, then 5, and that's basically him working with Tom Cruise.
Minority Report was 2002, actually.
That's what I'm saying. So he did that, then he did War of the Worlds, didn't he?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. So the point being, like, he made Tom Cruise wait on one of the projects. The point being, is like, you feel like, okay, well, we got to get Tom Cruise into that War of the Worlds project we were talking about. Then I'm going to get to Munich. So Spielberg, again, he right from the outset, because he knew this was going to be a sensitive movie. He was not making a political movie or criticizing the Israeli government or anything. Because again, the Mossad is kind of there's a little bit of scrutiny on the Mossad, but not intentional scrutiny. It's like this is like what happened, at least roughly what happened. He really focused on a story about the examination of counter-violence, violence begetting violence, and the aftermath of the event. Instead of everyone going into this, like myself, I went into this movie thinking, "Hey, we're gonna see what happens in Munich. It's gonna be drawn out for about 2 hours." No,
that's
not
exactly
that at all.
What I was thinking, Dragon. Oh my God, we're gonna get into that with the opening.
That's what I'm saying. So anyway, it brings in like Tony Kushner, who did Angels in America, the play, and then the movie and all the adaptations. He brought that guy in to punch it up, along with Eric Roth, who did Forrest Gump and the Ali movie, Will Smith. So he brings some heavy hitters to kind of punch up the script a little bit. Let's see. So this is the important part. So to make Oscar season for this movie, make the Academy Awards, this is one of the quickest Spielberg productions ever. What he did is he needed to make this under the radar because it was going to be controversial for the for the Israeli community and of course anyone involved. And basically, this movie entirely from start to when it's in theaters took 6 months to make.
Oh wow, that's
which
crazy.
Is insane. And like and Spielberg, he didn't do any maybe because he knew how sensitive it was going to be. Like there was going to be no promotion. He didn't do any interviews. Just basically, it's like on the poster practically like, December 23rd. It's it comes out Christmas. It's like, hey, new Spielberg movie. It's kind of in many respects, I guess it is kind of like Spielberg's Dunkirk, and that's like just sold in the filmmakers. Like I'm going to check it out because it's Spielberg.
No, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of. Do you remember that movie that Martin Scorsese made with Adam Driver a couple years ago?
Vaguely, but I don't know the name.
God, I don't even remember what it was called, but it was like it kind of like slipped under the radar, but it was really controversial. I think it was about like Christians going in and like trying to reform indigenous people or something like that. But it was like a really controversial. Silence is the movie.
Okay, there you go.
And yeah, Martin Scorsese basically did the same thing, Dragon, where he didn't really release any trailers. He just kind of like it was just a very bleak poster with Adam Driver and also Andrew Garfield as well. So good cast. I should check that movie out at some point. But anyway,
last thing here. So basically, they were Spielberg. He's working with the public knowledge along with the book. So again, the book he was drawn to the book as a story, not a historical adaptation. That's why again, this is not something to show in the history classes necessarily. Okay, it's like maybe to show the opening scene in the history class, but everything that follows is pretty much. I mean, it's not that it's inaccurate. It's just again, you can never be 100% because the Israeli government they're really against this movie because again here's the thing, even if it is accurate they can't admit that it's accurate, Tiki. That's the frustrating thing about the movie. So this might be accurate, right. And they are adapting a book before they're telling the full historical account. So they filled in the blanks with some dramatic kind of like emphasis, a little bit of they filled in some blanks that they didn't have. They went with what they had. And the last thing is that the Israeli government and the Mossad, their thoughts on this movie, because again like they deny they're very in denial about what happens in the movie, but again, it doesn't necessarily discredit. They're just denying that it happened, and their quote for the movie that the one they would put on the posters: Spielberg should stick to films about dinosaurs.
Oh God!
They literally said that. So the movie gets an Oscar nomination for Best Picture, Screenplay, Director. Point being, the Academy liked it, not enough to give it an Oscar, but they liked it. Okay.
You know what? The one thing I remember about this movie when it launched was Roger Ebert really talking it up. So that's the one kind of like bit of nostalgia I have for it. I never got around to seeing it because as a kid, Dragon, like this, I got to be honest with you, even as a 30-year-old, almost 30-year-old. This movie flies over my head a little bit. I can't imagine what like 15-year-old Tiki would have thought of this movie. Like I would have been so lost, Dragon. So I'm glad I didn't see this in the year it came out.
All right.
All right, so Dragon, cue up the lethal weapon of it all, and we'll get started.
Okay, folks, we're gonna basically you don't necessarily need the movie to kind of enjoy our commentary if we're doing our jobs right. Basically, we're gonna go through things linearly. If you just want to go with it as a podcast, as a conversation, but if you want to watch along with us, I encourage you to. By all means, just cue it up to the 0 mark when you're gonna do the old lethal weapon count up there. It's like 1, 2, 3, go, and when you hear Tiki say "go," being the operative word. Green means go. When you hear him say that, that means hit the play button and just enjoy the show with us.
All right, you ready, Dragon?
When you are.
All right, folks, let's do it. Munich in 1, 2, 3, go. All right, Dragon, I'm very intimidated by this one. I gotta say, I think we got a lot to live up to, especially because we're both like more respect than actually feel this movie.
Yeah, well, okay, fun fact. Universal, this is the first Universal movie Spielberg had done with them since The Lost World. It's been a while since he worked with Universal.
Because he pretty much went off and did his own thing with DreamWorks,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, essentially. Most of them were like all DreamWorks, is kind of a co-production.
So is this the first time that DreamWorks and Universal collaborated?
At least, I mean, I don't know if it's the very first time, at least with Spielberg, it looks like it, yeah.
Nice. Because, of course, nowadays, I feel like DreamWorks and Universal are pretty much synonymous with each other. They're basically
essentially
Disney, Pixar.
Yeah. Of course, they're drawing emphasis on the whole based on a story, inspired by real events, not based, not a telling of real, not a full-on, like 100% the fact check real events, just inspired by. I love the opening composition here. This is a huge moment for the movie, the big fence jumping, and I love how we have him like trying to climb the fence, and you see Munich behind him. That's perfect. That just summarizes like the kind of the whole set. We're setting things up very well here.
Yeah, so Dragon, what do you, like, I'm just curious in terms of your initial reaction when you found out that this movie wasn't going to just be like a beat by beat of the actual events.
Yeah, I mean, I went into this. I saw a clip from this movie, and I assumed, okay, that was just based. The whole movie is because it was an event. It was one of the scenes from the opening here, where the massacre begins with them trying to burst through the doors later in a few minutes. So I assumed that was like maybe we're going to build to that, and that was going to be like I was thinking, well, I'm watching this for the first time. Like, oh man, we're doing it right from the get go. I mean, I guess that makes sense. Mm-hmm. We'll see. I wonder how long they're going to be able to keep that up for the movie.
Yeah.
This shot right is a perfect shot right here when they climb over the fence with the sign behind them. That's a great, because again, it all started again with Spielberg, kind of the post 9/11 kind of comparison here. It's like the compounding mistakes of trust and simple mistakes where like the other athletes like, oh yeah, let's help them up over the gate, whereas a simple mistake again really lacks security, where again just the littlest thing can lead to really horrible things happening. Again, like terrorism, just getting a foot in the door through like a simple mistake that's made, and that's why we have to take our shoes off in the airport these days.
Right. So yeah, very. I love just kind of like the slow tracking. The cinematography isn't necessarily flashy right here in these opening scenes, but it is very deliberate. We're very much kind of in Dragon. That's another thing that I want to point out. This movie has a fly on the wall quality to it that really is very much emphasized, much more so than other Spielberg projects. Okay, so I'm going to see this here now. See the guy in the hat and the red shirt? Cowboy hat? The guy in the hat and the red shirt. Let me see. The guy. Yes, okay.
Yeah, the guy in the hat with the red shirt and the younger of the two coaches. The coaches are the guys in like the white t-shirts there. They get killed first eventually.
Yes.
But like not the guy who opens the door, but the guy who wakes up. Those two guys are going to be very important. I'll tell you why later.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. This is what I'm talking about. This is the scene I saw, by the way. This whole I love the terror in a confined space and like these pivotal actions in a crisis. It just captures the horror of like again of like these small actions, like, oh god, you're trying to keep the door closed from these guys. it's from people are just trying to come in and drawing guns on you and everything. It's it's very scary and just very true to life.
Mm. Yeah, it's I don't know, man. It's a really interesting. I feel like the pacing of this movie is all over the place, but I feel like the pacing of this movie is almost kind of like in a similar vein of something like Gareth Edwards' Godzilla 2015, and I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way, but I mean like what we just saw with the cutting. Like we just cut from right when the action was getting into the heart of it to the news footage. And here we go, man. Here we go with like the 7-minute montage of new news footage from around the world, which I think is probably the most ambitious scene in the entire movie, just from a sheer point of view of just different locations and bringing the idea together. I think it drags a little bit. Don't get me wrong, but I do think it gives a global scope to the event that we can kind of, as an audience, put our foot down on. It gives us a good hold on just how much of an impact this thing had, and both sides of it, importantly.
Yeah, in a movie about aftermath, you really want to hit like the reaction to the event really well, like they're doing right now. I love like the link up where you saw the guy walking out to the balcony, where you saw the action. All the stuff on the screens are actual footage, by the way. It's all real footage.
Mm.
So, like all the little TV screens and everything. So, by the way, so Get Married, this was like the Jewish Kennedy moment for a lot of people. I know, obviously, I'm not trying to dismiss like the actual Kennedy event, but you know what I mean. It's like this is like the thing heard around the world, and everyone's eyes were on this because not only these 1972 Olympics were very much this. This is like 27 years after the war. I want to say like for it to be held in Germany and to have Jewish athletes in Germany since then was a big deal.
Right.
So already all the eyes of the world in that community were on this, and then of course you have this going on within the conflict that's also going on. So a lot of mistakes were made during this conflict too. They don't really highlight it's there. They don't like draw a lot of focus to it. But Germany made a lot of mistakes in what happened here because they negotiated with the terrorists, which was something that the Israeli community were very against. Like the old woman who leads the charge here, Goldie Meyer, I believe her name. Golda Meir. Yeah, she is. Golda Meir is what her name is. Anyway, so she's the one who eventually makes the revenge call, and she's the one who said, like, no, we don't negotiate with terrorists. It's kind of our policy on this. So no, we're not going to. But again, Germany started that process, it's already muddied the waters, which then leads to like all the speculation about they wanted to exchange 200 prisoners for the hostages that they did have, which is already a tall order as is. And then there's like some people speculate they were actually going to let them go, but again the situation got so screwed up potentially by Germany and Munich that it was just like, oh god, that's what led to the big shootout that they got everyone killed. And the point being it was a cluster fire. Let's say that much. It was a nightmare about what happened. And here's the biggest thing they did wrong, Diggy. They didn't cancel the Olympics after this happened.
Yeah, right.
What happened was the day after, they did a memorial at the start of the day, and then later that same day, Olympics happened.
Yeah, definitely. And Dragon, that's the thing. It's like you're talking about all this stuff, and man, I don't know. This is definitely a two-sided coin here because we get this big scope, we get this big reaction, but there's so much more to the actual event that I feel like we could have focused on. But then again, that's just simply not the movie that Spielberg was interested in making. But he does tantalize us with it, though.
By the way, Spielberg's daughter is coming up. She's a cameo. When you're going to see these two girls sitting on the couch, and I think they're wearing black or something. She's the one on the left, Sasha Spielberg. So that'll be coming up soon. Little director nods. Fun.
It is a very good use of archival footage, though.
On the left there, not wearing black, but the other. Anyway, sorry, go on.
No, I was just saying it's a very good use of archival footage.
Absolutely.
Probably one of the better uses that I can think of. Just in terms of showing the archival footage, but linking it up to the actual event and just showing the impact of it.
Yeah, well, actually, Tiki, later on, basically the thing that they do, Spielberg made a very interesting choice with the movie here, because originally he wasn't going to even show the massacre itself. He was going to basically, we were going to get the opening that we have here, but throughout the movie, what he elected to do was, okay, I'm not going to give it to you all at once because that's going to be too depressing a way to open a movie, which is to start with the massacre, I guess. Basically, what he did to kind of link it to the character's progression, to Abner's character progression, he's kind of flashing back to the event itself to remind himself why he's out there, why he's doing, what he can't forget. So it's like Spielberg's not using violence willy-nilly. He's using it very deliberately and very kind of paralleling it to the character's progression. So it's like, again, he was thinking about maybe not doing that at all. I think he ended up doing a really smart thing. Again, an ambitious thing where people are going, where's the massacre? What's all this aftermath? This is not the movie I paid my ticket for. What is this?
I want to play in a flag there, Dragon. I want to play in a flag on that whole idea because you're right. That is a pivotal thing in the movie. I think it is an interesting runner, Dragon. I really do. I'm a man who loves a good framing device, and that's, and that. Having said that, Dragon, without getting into details, just to plant the flag about it, I kind of hated the, very much pun intended, the climax.
I know. We'll talk about it. I know.
I really wasn't on board with that, Dragon. I really wasn't on board with that, Dragon.
Neither am I. We'll get to it. But anyway, so what's happening right now is very important. So Avner watching it, like this is the importance of like just everyone just seeing kind of like in like the Kennedy moment, her around the world thing that we're doing now. We're supposed to illustrate that Avner is not special. So he, like everyone else we saw, is watching it helpless at home, watching what's happening. And the list is being, I love how we're paralleling the two lists, the list of the victims that are playing on the TV and the list of the targets that are, of course, going to be very pivotal to what happens, based on our main 11 targets. The guys who commissioned this, or at least had a big hand in the organization, that the Black September group that did this. Because if I remember correctly, it's that they named the group Black September because of this, because it's happened, on September. So.
Makes sense.
Of course, there's Vanessa. So I let Zur, who plays Vanessa on Daredevil, good actress. I love when she pops up things. I had no idea she was an Israeli actor, and she was. So she was well cast.
Yeah. Gotta tell you, Dragon, because of the aforementioned scene, she's not one of my favorite characters in the movie.
Oh, that's not her fault.
I know it's not her fault. I know. I'm just saying it's kind of a thankless role, to tell you the truth, if I'm being completely honest.
I mean, I'll admit, it's more she symbolizes something than her actually being a character. I'll give you that much, all right? So she's the symbol for home. That's basically what she represents. She's like, it's him going on an arc of realizing that it's the family is the home, not the physical location. Anyways, more on that later. Okay, so now the gold in my ear. So this is the big boss lady of the group. I love how classic kind of manners, if you will.
I love the reveal of this woman. I love the camera work where it's like we hear her before we reveal her. She has a big voice, and the camera swoops down, and we see that she's this tiny woman. But because we've already heard her and heard her command respect in the room, we ourselves as an audience also command that same respect towards this character.
Of course,
it's such an interesting way to introduce a character that really is going to be a bit player, but be kind of like the person that does sort of send our heroes on their journey.
Yes. Also, it's kind of like an old school chivalrous thing, but by the same token, it kind of shows a lot of respect. Every time she gets up, everyone else in the room gets up. It's a show of respect. Mm-hmm. So also we kind of thread Neil on the big head honcho, like the main guy orchestrated everything, Salami.
Yes.
Basically, the numero uno target that we're going to be trying to get to, like the white whale as he is, but there's things are going to go.
The movie really does kind of turn into a Captain Ahab thing with that guy in the third act.
Because again, we literally say it here, like, this is the guy who's the architect of the Munich massacres. Like, yeah, you want to get that guy. Of all the guys who are tangentially involved, and they are involved in certain areas, but I'm saying that guy's like the guy said, let's do this, man. Let's do something terrible.
Sure.
So, gold in my ear here. So, all joking aside here, she's opting for a show of strength within this. Essentially, look, I don't want to get, guys, I barely fully get it myself, but essentially the Israel-Palestine thing, it's a land dispute. It's a holy land dispute. Again, basically, they've been kicked out. They want claim to a land they devise as their home, which I want to say is just overall, basically, Jerusalem is the home to the Jews, which, you go back to the whole the whole Moses tale. It's like we go to the land of milk and honey, which essentially is Jerusalem, and the whole ball of wax. Again, I might be getting it wrong a little bit there, but essentially it's a land dispute. From when I've heard like the layman's paring down of what this is. So I'm making any mistakes. It's different person.
Yeah. So we introduced Jeffrey Rush Dragon. Jeffrey Rush, one of my favorite actors, and I gotta say I like him in this movie, but I don't necessarily think his character has a ton to do. I feel like he's mostly just Mr. Exposition Man.
Here's the thing: yes and no. Yes, he's Mr. Exposition, but it's more like he only has very specific scenes. He has like less than there's like 4. I mean, it really has 3 scenes, but it kind of bridges into 4 scenes. He has like 4 scenes. He only has 1 scene with the entire cast when we have all of our guys around the table. 1 scene with them, but mostly all the scenes with Eric Bana, which is very good. That's the thing. He's very much kind of the guy framing the conflict, and he's kind of he's the conscience of the homeland for the Abner character. He's like the voice of Israel in his head.
Right.
So speaking of which, Eric Bana, he was cast in this specifically for The Incredible Hulk. Spielberg saw the Hulk movie in 2003, and he basically loved his humanity with dealing with kind of the tragedy of a situation. Like, okay, I think this guy we could do something really nice with this guy.
Is that right? Wow.
Seriously, he loved what he did as Bruce Banner. That's why he cast him.
That's great.
Yeah. Of course, if he made this in 2008, it might be a different story. I don't know.
Oh God. And Dragon, I gotta say, just props to Eric Bana. Eric Bana has never really been an actor. I don't want to say one of my favorite actors, but he's never been an actor that's really kind of stood out from the crowd for me. But this role is definitely like the most impressive I've seen him in for sure.
I would agree with that. Absolutely, it's the best Eric Bana role I can think of that he's really done. So again, so Abner here is low on the Mossad totem pole because again he works for the Mossad, but he's an analyst essentially. He's not a field operative. He's the main reason is that he's the son of a hero who essentially I can only interpret this because I don't know the ins and outs of this. I can only interpret that his father went to jail for like maybe the Mossad sins or got caught during an operation because he's in jail and we don't know what for, but the Mossad still thinks of him as a big war hero, I guess. And a big thing to hit, too, is that Avner is a Yankee Jew. Now, Yankee Jew means you're born in Germany, but you're raised in Israel. So importantly, again, this is a character who is not 100% home, and that's his arc about the redefinition of home. Mm-hmm. And it also makes him an asset because, with the whole even being low in the totem pole, and essentially they kind of on the sly fire him from his job, but again, he's secretly working for him. All of this very intentional so he can not be found out for being, basically, people would interpret him as someone from Germany before they interpret him as someone from Israel, which, of course, is why he can fly under the radar and not be part of the Mossad agenda in the eyes of people who might be like, hey, we don't like Israel. We don't like people from Israel. We don't like Jews. Let's kill them. Makes him
of course, Dragon, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the lingering Spielberg daddy issues.
That is very key. And again, the separation from father. He is separated from home as he becomes a father. Very daddy issues. It's like
oh yeah, big time.
The old Spielberg bingo chart, folks. Mark it down.
Dragon, have we ever come across a movie that doesn't have daddy issues?
I don't think we have. There might be one small exception, but not really.
Wow, that's really quite amazing. All right, so Dragon, let's talk about the sex scenes because I'm really not a fan of them, either of them, at all.
Look, I'm going to mention this. It looks really uncomfortable because it's really hot. There's no air conditioning in according to this scene.
I don't know, Dragon. I'm not a fan of sex scenes in general in movies. Not because I'm a prude or anything, just because I don't necessarily think any of them really speed up the plot. They can be passionate, and I think that is obviously what they're trying to illustrate here. But I don't know. It's just one of the issues of pace with this movie. Where honestly, rewatching it, I had to fast forward both of the sex scenes just because, just kind of dragged for me a little bit.
All right. Well, Well, here's the thing. I mean, one, I'm going to give him kudos. You know, you never see like a sex scene with a pregnant woman. Just I'll give him kudos for being different, I guess, on this matter. But you're right. It's always a little weird when
I
you
do like
sex.
how into it he is. That's one thing I will give you credit for. He's like, oh, how long can we keep doing this? Oh, right up until I'm in labor, honey.
Sure, that's what I'm saying. There's something like it's a nice intimate moment, but just as a thing, it's like, yeah, I don't. Do we need to see it? Probably not. Again, later on, it definitely gets muddy with like a really important scene. So
Oh, it really
yeah,
muddies the waters later on, Drake.
that's what I'm
Really
saying.
muddies the waters.
Okay, now importantly, what they're talking about in this scene, though, they're talking about kind of the kibbutz of it all. So a kibbutz is essentially means you're raised by the community of Israel. And we get a little bit of backstory on Avner here through the conversation about like what are we going to do about our child, and if you go on this assignment, and yada yada. And essentially, it is that we're framing Avner's dedication to the cause, saying that he's very in tune with Israel, even though he's always been a little bit on the outside as a Yankee.
Mm-hmm.
So he's very dedicated to the cause, and again the arc here basically is Avner accepting his deniability. He's accepting the deniability that makes him an asset, both as Yankee and as all the stuff like I mentioned earlier, within the mission, which is basically accepting, yeah, you are on the outside. But that's not a bad thing. You can still have a life for yourself. You don't necessarily maybe going home. The thing you framed your whole mission around is like we have to go home to this one specific location. Maybe it's not everything. Maybe it's not worth getting killed over. Maybe it's again, and we're showing that on both sides. It's not it's not a one-sided thing where why don't you just let the other guy have the land? It's like no, they both have an equal claim to the land. That's the reason it's a dispute.
Right.
You know.
Right. So, what do you think of this whole the terms of like basically signing his life away and basically essentially he's signing away the right to exist?
That's the thing, and that's the thing because again, he was so low in the totem pole. They couldn't to make sure he has no Mossad ties, to make sure he doesn't get spotted or found out anything. They kind of make him an invisible person. So again, importantly, he is nobody, and that's what this whole scene's about. And it's quite clever for how the whole operation works. I guess so. It works.
Mm.
This is a fun scene though. I love the money logistics and the accounting. Again, it's kind of like it takes the old trope, the old stereotype. We make it really charming in this scene. The old the money, the very money counting, Jewish stereotype, but we kind of make it a little fun here, where it's like bring me the receipt. It's like we're not just like we're not doing anything offensive. It's like hey, it's like bring me. I want the receipts. I don't care about messages. Give me receipts. Again, it's a fun, and the reason it gets even better is because we know that throughout the course of the movie, this is a really expensive operation. It's like over 200.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong about that. But the budget is like one of the main concerns of the whole piece for sure.
I love the pastry walk and talks. I love the kind of these walk and talk scenes.
Forget about the Sorkin walk and talks. We got the pastry walk and talks. Move over, Sorkin.
Baklava and everything here. So it's basically we establish Ephraim as a straight. He's very much a straight shooter. He tells him as it is. Again, a little bit of exposition, but also just again framing things here. He basically sets. This is the main. We're setting the stage for the audience, spelling out what exactly the job of this little hit squad is going to be. That we want it known that the 11 die. Hence, what's the point? So basically, we want it known. We want a public try using bombs if you can, just to make a point, so people are afraid of us. The point is like let our 11 of our people get killed in Munich for nothing. We got to make a show of it. You basically match the force of calculated terrorism, essentially. We establish that he is told to kill, but no collateral damage. And of course, it's going to be really important later when collateral damage happens, and there's going to be a lot of guilt associated with that.
Oh yeah. And also, Dragon, just the whole idea that I love how on paper this mission sounds very simple.
Yeah.
It's essentially like a video game mission. It's like go in, you have a list of targets, you take them out, end of the mission, good job, everyone. But of course, as we find out through the course of the movie, it's obviously not going to be that simple at all. It's going to be incredibly messy, as Spielberg likes to do.
Yeah, so this is another thing Spielberg added to with the collateral damage aspect, because again, in the real operation, there was collateral damage, and it wasn't there was more to collateral damage than the movie leads you to believe. But again, we wanted to add moral stakes and just the progression of the Avner arc. So I think it was a smart choice that he made there. And again, it's the same ends, just not as we don't want to get bogged down like, well, there's more collateral damage, but I think he made a smart choice.
Sure.
Okay, so here's the first of our kind of a running kind of framing device here. Again, Abner, he's embarking on the mission, so he's thinking back to kind of what started all this here. So now we're seeing the rest of the scene. Now, let me tell you this: so the second coach, the guy who just got up, the younger guy, this guy right now, just gets up out
Yes,
of the
yes,
bed.
yes.
This is fascinating, Tika. That guy is a Guri Weinberg. Now, Guri Weinberg is the son of the character that he's playing. His father was the young coach that got killed in Munich.
Oh, no shit.
He is reenacting his father's death, and
Oh my God.
the guy in the
Wow.
cowboy hat right now who just shot him, that guy,
Yeah.
his father died from gun violence.
Oh my God. Wow.
And even better, all the guys who, again, all the people, all the hostages and our kind of the Arab terrorists here, they both really got along during this very sensitive thing. They all got along during the project. There was no kind of divide like there is in the movie. And just to show you, like, if they were all kind of ruminating upon, like, you know what? It's a shame we couldn't have made a movie like this. A movie couldn't have been made like this way back when they would have gotten people together instead of like all divide on the dispute. That whole thing.
Very interesting, Dragon. That's very insightful. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I gotta ask, Dragon. I gotta ask on a somewhat lighter note. What do you think of the cheek shot?
That's what I'm saying. You can only assume the cheek shot had to be like a real life thing, otherwise, because it's so brutal. Otherwise, it was shocking.
Yeah.
It's like, oh God, I thought he was just dead, but like, oh no, he's still moving. Oh my God, he's just. Oh,
this is definitely the first scene where we really get into the just how intense the violence in this movie can be. And Dragon, I truly do think that this movie is every bit as brutal as Saving Private Ryan. It's just more intimate than Saving Private Ryan.
Certainly, again, very confined, and again, that's kind of the difference between war and terrorism. Terrorism, it's on like the unsuspecting front, and again, like you're like this bit too when the guy grabs the knife and he's running around. Again, there's the little death on, but stabs that guy right in his masked head, which is nasty. That guy's still moving, so he ain't having a good day. That's what I'm saying. Look at like all this, like the wanton destruction, like all like the splat. We splatter a guy against the wall too. It's like, again, but it's calculated violence, and I really respect that one. It's not just like violence for the sake of like, let's just make it all bloody. Let's try like let's make Tarantino squeamish. It's not one of those.
No, it's very realistic. I mean, like you mentioned, the guy with the if it was a Tarantino movie, the guy who got stabbed in the head would have like a fucking water fountain of blood gushing out of the side of his head, instead of just the very realistic, like just standing there in shock.
Yeah. They shot all the bank stuff in one day, by the way, which I don't know how impressive that really is, because they really just, the opening. I assume it's like a lot of shots to get it really looking as good as it does here. Like it's no Duke Ellington from Breaking Bad sequence, mind you, but it's still pretty impressive. Like, we're taking out fancy gold boxes, which have the money in it, so it's it's nice. But fun fact about John Williams. So John Williams, he did something kind of Herculean with this too, because remember how tight knit this production is. 6 months from from cooking it to releasing it.
Sure.
John Williams, this is the fourth score that he did for films from 2005. So he did like 4 scores in a year, which is unheard of for him, because he usually does not do that.
He definitely did Revenge of the Sith. What's the other one?
God, he did Revenge of the Sith. They did this.
War of the Worlds.
Maybe War of the Worlds, and there was one other that was not Spielberg, so I can't remember what it was.
Now I'm curious.
Anyways,
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Okay. Anyway, so now we're meeting the rest of the team, and I love how we meet the team over a brisket, which is really nice.
And then, of course, we get introduced to a young pre-James Bond Daniel Craig Dragon, and I love it.
You know what's funny? There are two.
Yeah, go ahead.
There are 2 Bond villains in this movie.
Are there really?
Yeah, and they play relatives too. You know who they are.
No, who are they?
Our French connection. Both of him and Louis and Papa. They're Bond villains.
Oh, I did not know that.
Pretty neat.
Huh.
One of them is a Daniel Craig Bond villain too, which is even funnier.
That's really funny.
Anyway, let's see. So
seriously, Daniel Craig's character, Dragon. I love how his character is like the skeptical one of the group, and the one who kind of like keeps everyone sort of on an even keel. But by the same time, he's also kind of like the one who's sort of the most human and the one who has a lot of levity to the situation. He's like, hey guys, like we can't let this situation turn us into monsters. Like, we have to be human and civil in this sort of situation. So there's a lot of layers going on with this guy.
So this was a big sell for Spielberg, by the way, because this is a really good idea too. That none of these guys are trained killers. They're all forced again. They're given the okay to kill by the Mossad essentially, but they are not
Dunkerkian, very Dunkerkian.
Yeah, like Daniel Craig, because he's Steve, and Steve, he's from South Africa, and he is, he's the getaway driver. He's the vehicle guy.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, general backup as well. And you have Robert. Robert is the Frenchman. Robert Matthew Kazovitz plays him. This guy, he was directing at this point in time, and he kind of was trying to do less acting, but he learned Spielberg was interested. Spielberg was doing a movie. He says, okay, he told his agent, okay, forget what I said earlier. I want to work with Spielberg. I imagine Spielberg has a big following with the French after Close Encounters, given like the big French character in that. I imagine. It's let's see. So let's see. The rest of these guys I'll get to later, but I love that each of them has like a different, each of them, they both bring something different to the team. I do like Daniel Craig Tiki. I was really excited to get to him in the movie. I gotta be honest though, he doesn't really do a lot. He doesn't get a lot compared to the other guys, in my opinion.
Really?
Really?
I don't know. Maybe it's just because it is Daniel Craig. Like, that's very much a possibility, Dragon. Don't get me wrong. But I really thought his character stood out because I thought his character was like probably one of the most morally ambiguous ones of the bunch. And also, I feel like he has the most moments of levity.
Yeah, I mean, again, I just feel he was underutilized in that you're right, he does have the levity, and I mean, that's the thing, he doesn't have like a moment like the rest of the guys have, where again, we have like the bomb maker.
Oh, I think he has a moment.
I guess. I mean, we'll get to it. Again, I like him. Just maybe he'll convince me otherwise. We'll see how it goes.
There's definitely a moment. There's definitely a moment with him where I'm like, okay, I really like this guy. I'm attached to this character.
I think the one who shines the most is Carl. Carl is Siren
Tom Hanks lookalike.
Yeah, with the hat and the glasses, yeah, it looks like Carl Hanratty, but sure.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Drake. The fact that he's named Carl, all right? That's the only reason I have to bring it up.
Sure. But the point being, that guy's he's like the moral center, and he's very meticulous. He's the fixer. He's the cleanup guy. That's his. He's very much the Mike Ehrmantraut. That's his role. Of course, we have Yvonne here. Now, Yvonne is essentially, she's the one who gives him the French connection, the connections that will eventually lead to Louis. And apparently the money gag in here about James Madison, the $5,000 bill, I think, BS, because they stopped minting that like ages ago. And apparently it would be a dead giveaway. It's like it's a who cares moment for sure. It's like it's a giveaway of like, oh wait a minute, how would just average Joe's like working from there's something more of these guys if they have $5,000 bills lying around that easily.
Yeah.
Anyway. So, point being, we have the source for the connections to find the targets. Very straightforward. But again, with a catch. There's definitely going to be a catch with with kind of the French connection of it all. There, it's going to put them all in danger later on. That again, they sell information to both sides, folks.
Mm-hmm.
So, by the way, they didn't shoot in Munich. I forgot to mention that we were in Munich. They did not shoot in Munich at all.
No, they did a lot of like really interesting kind of like they pretty much shot in a couple locations, right?
You want me to blow your mind with something?
They pretty much shot in one location, right? That's what I heard.
They shot mainly in two locations. You have Malta, which essentially is Italy. Like right now, we're in Malta. Malta was the one they used the most for all the globetrotting. And you have Budapest. Budapest is what they use for the sets. Like they build sets in Budapest, and they used it for London and Paris when we get to it later on. So they did a day's visit to Paris. When the Eiffel Tower is in frame, they're actually in Paris. Outside of that, they're in Budapest.
Gotcha.
That's what I'm saying. Mostly they're in Malta for the majority of this. But again, it's pretty impressive. Like everything is just like using those two places. They just kind of framing. They go to 14 different countries. With two. Impressive.
I think the one location that I wasn't really convinced about was London, just because it's like, oh look, it's a double-decker bus. That must. I know
that's the thing. They had to oversell it, but they lucked out. Yeah, in Budapest, when you literally go down the street from their locations, and one side of it's Paris. You go down the street, London.
No, I hear you. Yeah.
Very convenient. So I should mention this too, because we're gonna have a really good scene coming up here, like the first assignment, the first job, the first mark, and Ben Burt did the sound for this. Of course, Ben Burt, renowned sound designer extraordinaire, he did the sound design on this movie, and of course, like we noticed a little bit in the Munich massacre. The, did you notice the gunfire for this movie is just super loud and like how unfetteringly just gruesome it is?
I mean, it should be because the whole movie's trying to be realistic. So yeah,
I know
I
you're
did
right,
notice
but
that.
that's what I'm saying. I think it's all tribute to Ben Burtt. He worked with the ambient sounds and everything. He kind of plussed the gunfire. That's why it's a little different than the average movie, just to kind of show emphasis to the violence. Like little touches like that, they go a long way.
Uh-huh.
Poor Robert here, getting the short straw. I felt bad for this guy because this guy, out of all of them, he's the most unqualified for this work. In that he's not a bomb guy, but he's forced in the position of the bomb guy.
Yeah, and then everyone, like, it's almost kind of like it gets to a point where it's like, oh my god, is this guy mole? Is he sabotaging us? It's like, no, he's just like in over his head.
Yeah.
Right, so what do you think of this dude? I thought this was a really weird pool. Like this, I guess it's an interesting kind of cultural facet. The writing, the translation of the 1001 Arabian Nights.
Yeah, I think the idea of this guy is he was down on his luck, and it was basically I think he used to be a big deal. So they're kind of working their way up the scale, as it were. We start with a guy who's like he was involved in things, but he's a little hard, a little downtrodden. I don't know how far he's in the kind of the terrorist ladder of things here, but he's that's the idea. That's why he's like doing something so like on the street. It's like translating Arabian Nights. That's why he's just kind of like very low level right now.
I do think there is something cultural to be said about the translation of Arabian Nights. I'm not sure what that is because I'm the whitest man on the internet, but
no, I
think there's
see your
something to be
point.
said for it.
You know what's funny though about Carl? This I'm looking at him because I know he has like kind of the Carl Hanratty look with the hat and everything, but he looks a little bit more like Kevin Costner than anything else to me. If you look at him,
fair enough. I can see that.
Like older Kevin Costner, but I mean like basically Kevin Costner today, but put then It's, let's see. So of course, again, we have Steve behind the wheel here.
I think Steve kind of I don't know. The reason I like him, Dragon, is I feel like he kind of exhibits kind of like a suave factor. He's the guy who's comfortable in his own skin with the mission, if you know what I mean.
I mean, he is, and I think the idea they're going for when we get to like the last scene with Steve, the last time we see Steve, and I love that each of these guys has a very memorable last interaction with Abner, which kind of measures Abner's arc against them, like their last moments they all share together. So keep note of that when we get there. The last scenes they all share. And in the case of Steven, I guess later it's that he was gun ho for the mission. He wanted to be like the one who was like he has no moral compunction about killing the bad guys, or at least killing the enemy here. That's the thing. He out of all of them, he's like the one who's like he doesn't mind being there. He's gun ho for being there. And again,
that's what I'm saying. That to me is the hook to his character.
I just don't think we bring to the forefront enough, though. That's what I'm saying, Tiki. He's kind of there. Then again, maybe he doesn't need to be. So I could be wrong on that front myself. I'm just saying I like that he's there. I just wish he got he doesn't really have like a meaningful scene. We have to read into it, is what I'm saying. At least that's the way it comes across to me. It's like he's just there, where everyone else has like a moment where we don't really get that moment with him until really just him being there with Abner, going through a horrific thing to go through in his last scene with him in the movie, but. I mean, take it for what you want.
You want me to cite the moment with him that I think really humanizes him?
There's I have a moment that's the closest I can come to it. Maybe it's the same when you point it out when you get there, Tiki. By all means.
Okay.
Maybe I'm missing something with him. It's entirely possible. So again, right now
I think it kind of hits the hammer over the head of this guy is not as bad as he seems. Yeah, he's totally down with both sides in a way.
Right.
All right.
So this is what I'm talking about the sound design coming up here. When we get this guy in the elevator, it's all the sounds we have this a little choir group or a group on violins or something. I think on the side. I forget if it already happened or not. The point being, when he gets into the elevator, it's you hear the ambient sounds, the machinery going down and everything. You just hear it's like the Godfather effect. In the Godfather, they always one thing going off in the scene, just a little wrong. The light bulb is he's burning out, or something little mundane thing happens. And then tragedy, then death, and oranges, if you will, like the orange effect.
Mhm.
I love how this first murder happens. Where again, these guys later, the first time they're killing somebody here, and again, they've been ordered to kill somebody. So again, they're being loyal. They're being again, I guess patriot, loyal to the homeland, as it were.
They're very much in over their heads.
They are, and they are. And I love how kind of nervous Abner is. Again, he being tasked with being the leader, where there's nothing really special about him. He doesn't know why he was chosen either. Where again, he's chosen for his anonymity factor. Or essentially, he's this moment here when the guy he just looks at him, and you can tell this guy was a bad dude at some point because he's trying to put the gun down on the guy. He sees the weakness in Abner right now, and he's like, "No, put the gun down, put the gun." That whole thing right there. It's like you can tell this guy he's putting on the front of I'm a harmless guy right now. Just put the gun down.
Right. Yeah.
Again, I love Robert here. Like, what do we do? What do we do? You're the leader. Make the call. And again, of course, we have the wine and we have the wine, the milk, the bread, and the cheese. I guess whatever. The point is, look at this mess here. That just happens. Again, it's if there wasn't blood coming out, we've symbolized it perfectly with the wine.
Totally.
So I love this bit with Carl coming up here. It's a great symbolic moment here. They do reference as well, where it's when Carl comes by. So the idea of what Carl does as the fixer, he's the one on the scene who makes the 911 call to put him above scrutiny. Calling in to make sure the press knows about it, and he also is picking up the shell casings and everything like he does now. And we have this bit with the milk. Of course, the milk is very symbolic with the land of milk and honey and everything. And of course, within the Moses tale, you have the blood in the water. We turn the water into blood here, which the Red Sea as well. Basically, we coined the Red Sea later on as well. So there's a lot of kind of parables to the Old Testament, the old stories, if you will. Which is nice, and we kind of bring that in the moral discussion they have coming up now. So again, Carl's the moral center saying, "Why are we doing this?" Where Abner's saying, "We do it because we were told to."
So this scene is kind of like step one in my liking of the Daniel Craig character, because I feel like they do kind of go out of their way to show that he's not affected by it on the same way, and maybe he's hiding something back, maybe he isn't, but but his whole philosophy is hey, just dance, we just accomplished something here, there's no reason to be remorseful about it.
Again, I love Hans here. So Hans, played by Hans Eichler here. He's the German forger. He does the forged documents and also a little bit of light accounting, I guess, because he's always saying we spent this much on this kill, 320,000 or so. Per their kill, which their budget at 250,000 per kill, I think. Again, this is the moment. I'll admit, this is the one moment I can really attribute to Daniel Craig here. Says, "Don't f with the Jews." That's the message. Where essentially you have the moral character here. We have Carl recording the story of Moses with the whole Red Sea and the whole blood and the milk thing we just had there.
There's a much more important moment with Daniel Craig down the line, Dragon.
Okay, well, you point out to me. That's the only one I'm thinking of right now. That whole don't f with the Jews.
There's a big one. I have a big one.
And that's the very Hunters-esque moment as well, too. The whole at the very end of the day, it's I've always the thing that fascinates me about Hunters and the whole seeking revenge for the Jewish people is if they've been through so much, why wouldn't they seek a little revenge? Why can't we ever explore that with the Jews? Why not?
Mm-hmm.
And again, we kind of show both sides of the argument in the movie. All right, so now we meet one of my favorite characters in the movie. I love Louis, man. Louis is great.
Yeah, I do too. I think Louis adds. I feel like I don't know. There's something a little off about the pacing of him and how he kind of flows in and out of the movie. I can't put my finger on what it is, but I do think he adds an air of ambiguity and mystery to the film.
Oh, he does, absolutely, because we don't know if he's giving faulty stuff all these. Well, again, we know now that again it was the bomb maker who was screwing up, but we think it might be him. You think he might be, you're trying to kill him off per being hired by somebody else. Entirely possible. So Louis here, you know what I love most about Louis? Louis is he reminds me so much of Claude Rains from Casablanca, but so much of another Louis Renault, the guy who was Rick's buddy, the cop on the whole. This is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. That guy.
Sure.
They do kind of share that dynamic where he grows a respect for him as the movie goes on, because right now they have a business relationship, and he kind of gets really jealous of him when he meets his father, which is my favorite scene in the movie, by the way. And yeah. So this guy, he was from Quantum of Solace. Matthew, I Almoric, I think his name is. He
Oh,
played
okay.
He played the Bond villain Quantum of Solace.
Well, forgive me for not remembering Quantum of
I don't
Solace.
know. I want to say I don't blame you at all. I don't know. I haven't even seen
With
Quantum of Solace, Nick, you know, 'cause I don't-
all due respect to Quantum of Solace.
Yeah.
It's weird. Daniel Craig's James Bond movies had a very like on again, off again. It was kind of like the Star Trek movies. It was like one was good, one was bad, one was good, one was bad.
Yeah, very much. Oh, I haven't seen the other one in that pattern yet, so it's kind of a wait and see, but no, fingers crossed.
It's got Rami Malek as the villain though, so
I know,
I
that's
think
what
it's
I'm
gonna
saying.
repeat the pattern.
So again, we see the document forging going on for Hans there. By the way, that's what I'm saying. You get to see everyone doing their role. I mean, Steven, I guess he drives, and you'll point to his moment there. Again, he's got kind of like a gun ho attitude. That's pretty much all he's got for me. But give me more there later. Anyway. So right now, basically, they're seeing again the Arabs are getting off easy for some the terrible stuff that they've done. Which again, this is the thing. Our guys here, they have to operate in shadow. Our Israeli team, they have to operate in shadow, and they have to just to make it look like another like a terrorist thing has happened. Where these guys they've actually done the terrorist thing, and they get away with it scot free. They get lauded as heroes in their own country essentially. And the Germans, yet again, have screwed something up within this too. Where again, they didn't, as far as I can say, they didn't kill him. They took him in alive, and they basically allowed him to get off scot free. That's as far as they're seeing it. Because they negotiated. They negotiated for basically 3 targets to come in alive instead of just kind of taking them out.
Right.
These guys would do.
So this is just kind of like the first in a long line of just like, okay, like even it's a Hydra situation essentially. Dragon,
will take its place.
Exactly. So very much this is very much the dilemma at the center of the film going forward. Is like, okay, like what we got a list of 11 names, but what are we really doing with these 11 names? Like, what's at the center of it? What's at the heart of it? What are we really here for?
Spielberg's point is that, again, even if they get the 11 names, they're just going to be replaced, and it's the fact that revenge is never a fulfilling endeavor, and that
exactly.
Basically, even if they measure up to their enemies, as we just saw on the TV, they're just going to do more terrible things to retaliate for the terrible thing that you've now done. So now you're culpable.
So I feel like that dilemma is the heart of the film. And honestly, Dragon, I don't know. I really think that is a very small scale, very personal dilemma. And it's just the runtime issue, Dragon. It really comes down to the runtime issue. I really feel like if this was like, 2 hours and some change, it would be a lot more impactful as, because you would essentially have the 3 acts of getting the gang together and then doing the kills and then kind of the aftermath. And it'd be a lot more, I don't know. There's something, I keep saying this, but there's something about the pacing in this movie, and I can't put my finger on it after 2 viewings, but I don't know what it is, but it's not quite there. It's very start and stop, Dragon. It's very much like, we'll have a moment, and then, okay, for example, this scene, this is one of my favorite bits, Dragon.
Yeah,
going back to what's on screen here.
Yeah, okay, so
this is a moment.
I love the phone tracing. This is what I'm saying here. I love the little humanizing bits that kind of makes the conflict really interesting. We have like the PLO representative, where basically his wife is basically kind of nagging him to make his points. Like, no, this is how we feel about the conflict. So, honey, let me talk to the guy. It's like essentially what's happening in that scene. Of course, right now, again, this girl's going to be very important here. Where again, our guy's tracing the phone so we can make the bomb to go inside the phone, and she spots him. Of course, she's the one who's going to kind of gum up the big plan.
And this girl is probably at the center of my favorite scene in the movie, and you know what I'm talking about.
I know, man. It's a great scene. It's a beautiful scene. Yeah, for me, I love the countryside. The French countryside scene's my favorite. My second favorite would be the scene you're talking about. But again, seriously, this is so again, importantly, we humanize kind of our enemy in quotes here, where again they are. I love the collect them all in terms of the narrative as a whole. Tiki, I love the collect them all aspect. Like we have 11 names on a list here. We're rooting for these guys to get the 11 names so they can complete their mission. Of course, along the way, they're losing bits and pieces of their souls. But still, it's like, okay, I want to see them get 11 names and keeping track of it in your head, and that's a lot of fun. The way they kind of go through that, like, okay, we're just going
Okay,
on.
you see that's a difference between you and me, though, Dragon. Because to me, that's one of the flaws of the movie is that I feel like the 11 names are a bit hard to keep track of, and I know that we've got the one guy towards the end that we really zero in on, and that's good. That's bigger tension, but I don't know, man. To me, I'm kind of on the side of the characters where it's like, at the end of the day, what is these 11 names really going to accomplish here?
Sure.
I feel like the point is made a little too well, honestly, if that makes any sense.
Maybe.
All right.
Yeah. So of course, the girl is the key to the messy humanity within the mission here too. Where we're again like you're killing again. They're trying to establish a line that they do not want to cross. Where again, per the movie, and whether it's in reality or not, I mean, whether it's truly what exactly happened with this operation. Which again, like the debatable things about the operation are because the Mossad says it wasn't just one team like the movie presents. It was like over a long period of time. There are a bunch of teams. But again, take it for what it is. Focusing on the movie that we do have, the story that we had presented to us, just as a story, as a movie. We have like the man within the mission here, where the girl, they don't want to kill the family because again, we just need to kill the guy. We don't want to have this little girl's blood on our hands. We don't have the wife's blood on our hands. We want to make sure we're going to wait for them to get out. So they have a perfectly prepared plan. We have the phone bomb cooked up. So again, when he picks up the phone, the light's going to go on. The green and the red is dead, man. When that red light comes on, we blow them up. We blow them. The kingdom comes. It's going to go like gangbusters. What could possibly go wrong? Oh boy, and something goes wrong.
Oh yeah.
Has some classic Spielberg tension. Again, Spielberg kind of aping the old Alfred Hitchcock on that one. Again, master of the tension, master of suspense, old Spielbergian suspense. By the way, somebody should mention the direction here. Spielberg rarely does zooms because he hasn't done zooms in a while up to this movie. And what he does so wonderfully with these zooms, it's kind of the equivalent to the Oneer, where in certain scenes, I think this scene when we kind of established it, he goes, you show 3 beats, 3 shots. So you see across the street, you see like a guy walking across the street, then we have our guys in the car. Like shots like that, all through a zoom lens and all just like kind of going around, all a Oneer in a sense. It's really cool.
And that's what I was talking about with the clinical nature of this film, Dragon. It's it very much feels like a fly on the wall take. Like, look at these shots right here, where the guy's putting on the hat and giving the signal and everything. It's very much kind of like a man on the streets.
Yeah. Of course, I love because you mentioned it, I love Eric Bana's hat too in this, by the way. I love his little kind of old school, the old school cap that he gives the signal. He kind of wears it throughout the movie too, because it's a nice hat. I just want to get it in there. It's a nice hat.
And oh boy, oh no! The little girl runs in conveniently right when their back is turned and they're not paying attention. Dragon. Oh, what timing! Oh no!
I love that both Avner and Carl, again, Carl being the moral center, absolutely would be entirely concerned with this collateral damage potential here. It's like, oh god, he's like, oh god, we're almost going to blow up this girl, and the two of them are running at the top of their lungs just to get to the, get back to the car. No, don't turn the key, don't turn the key. And again, it's like because again, on the edge of your seat, like he's, oh no, you go answer, like yeah, you go answer the phone, darling. It's like, oh no, don't send the kid to answer the phone. No.
Right. No, actually, Dragon, I think she volunteers to.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, like that's what I'm saying.
Which makes
it
even worse.
You're right. Yes.
Oh
yeah, you're right. Yeah, she offers. Right, I'm just looking at her. Yeah, she just.
Yeah, see, he gets up and she's like, no, I'll get it.
Yep. Oh god, and that's what I'm saying. It's this tense. That's the realization. This is what I'm saying. This is why I love Spielberg and the way he does tension. It's like those little realization moments, like the little intricacies in the filmmaking and the plot. It's visual storytelling of the highest order right now. Where like he sees that the car is back, and Carl's he hears the hello on the phone. Like, oh god.
Oh man! Yeah,
Again,
this is the most suspenseful moment in the whole movie right here, Dragon. This little bit of tension in between when the light goes on and when Eric Bana gets to the car.
And of course, Robert here again. We're going to learn throughout the course that he really doesn't know what he's doing. He's like, you can imagine his panic.
Oh man,
That's what I'm saying.
great stuff. Great stuff.
I love this guy. Seems to be a really good father too. He gives the impression he's a nice guy. Well, again,
yeah, no, he does. He does.
who again probably led to the deaths of innocent people. Still, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. We're making it a muddy affair, which is what's important. You know, we're showing that again. Like, it's not a clean cut conflict. It's not the Jewish people going up against the bully like, you know, historically we've seen so many times. You know, it's not the Jews versus the Egyptians. It's not the Jews versus the Nazis. It's not simple. It's like two guys with an equal claim to the home. Like, we endured suffering. We found a home, and yes, it's a part of Arab land, and you guys have had it for a long while. But you know, we very importantly, we kind of planted the flag on this land. It means something. You know, it's a whole thing.
Right. Oh boy.
What I'm talking about, like the Ben Burt
sound design, man. Yeah, great sound design.
Also, fun fact: I say fun fact, it's really obvious, but still, it's cool though. Is that each explosion is very distinctly different in terms of the scale, the volume, and the sound designs. Like, each one is like, of course, the next one's going to be a big one with the explosion. That's the memorable explosion.
But I love how the glass almost gets like pushed out from the window and almost has like a clean landing on the ground.
Yeah. Of course, you'll notice here again, Robert, his day job was, you know, basically what he was into. It was toy designing. It was like kind of build Tinker Toys, essentially. So that's kind of what he's doing now, trying to apply it to bomb making.
So yeah, you know, kind of just like in over his head, just a little bit, just a wee bit.
And right now, he's like, this guy doesn't get a break at all, too, because he already screwed up, and
he is basically the pariah of the group, Dragon. It's sad.
I know, he's a nice guy too. I just feel like, oh, poor Robert. It's the fact that, you know, Robert here, he didn't put enough kick in the bomb, because one bomb not enough, next bomb too much. It's like the Goldilocks.
Right.
Again, this too, we framed the Arab group here. Again, they're perfect with the bomb making. They have like letter bombs that blew up the place. Like, you know, they're. So like, our guys, our team here are operating at a disadvantage, but again, a disadvantage that's necessary for them to operate under the radar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course, it really does, like, if we're keeping score here, the numbers are really imbalanced in terms of, like, deaths.
That they are. And
but again, the important thing is that it's not about the number, it's about the message, and that I feel like is the two kind of conflicting ideologies of the movie.
Yeah. Of course, now we're about to hit the daddy issues portion of the film.
All the best cowboys have daddy issues, Dragon.
Yep. So we're meeting Abner's mother here. You know, it's very interesting. Abner's mother, of course. Who here's my thing, Tiki, with the movies. That ultimately, I felt it was a mistake not to see Abner's father at all in this movie, despite how we talk him up in the film.
Yeah.
I mean, this scene's fine.
I don't particularly agree, just because I like that there's an air of ambiguity to what happened to the father, and I feel like the movie is already padded enough as it is, to tell you the truth.
I mean, let me put it this way, okay? We have two scenes with his mother. This scene's fine, but the later scene when we bring her back, that scene feels like he should have gone to his father because he would have had a similar experience to what he had. That was my kind of take on it. But
Sure.
I would have switched it out instead of like you add to it. You know, it's what Texas swapped it.
But I mean, it does give the mother a little bit more, you know, a little bit more weight at the end of the movie, having her there. So you know, it's a little bit of a trade-off.
Golda Meir earlier on, she said, "You don't look like your father; you look like your mother." So there was a connect there, absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
Of course, that was a nice moment there. Saying, "I look at you. I know you're doing the right thing. I don't even need to know."
I like that, Dragon. That's the thing. I like that this woman is probably the. I mean, I don't. Oh God, I'm sorry. Now that I had no idea it was Vanessa, but now that you point out, it's
really
Vanessa,
didn't know me. Look at her.
It's so obvious that it's Vanessa. Oh God. Yeah, I don't know how I didn't know. Anyways,
I love the staging here too, where it's like showing the baby to his mother, and you gotta remember, now you got me almost calling her Vanessa. We have Daphne here.
I'm sorry.
Daphne, the wife here, Daphne, she had issues with his mother because again, the idea is he was raised by the community more than his mother because his mother was overwhelmed with the father in prison. That's essentially his story.
Makes sense.
So that's basically why she's she doesn't want to end up like his mother in this situation. The whole separating you from the life of your child could be damaging. Is kind of the point that she's making here. So basically, what Avner's saying is he wants he's suggesting that right after she gives birth, hey, why don't we move to Brooklyn? You kind of take things away. Let's get further away from Israel as things are heating up, especially after seeing all these bombings and everything on the news. My favorite Eric Bana, one of my favorite Eric Bana deliveries was in this scene too. I love it when he went he's like don't laugh at me then, like home, you, my wife and child is my home, essentially is what he says, which is the point of his character and the point of the arc. Great line, it's just like, oh, that's so corny. He says, it was hard for me to say, don't laugh at me then. That was adorable. But you see what I'm saying? I love that he's kind of phrased, his whole point is like, again, I can't let anything happen to my wife and child. Like, they essentially are my home, which he kind of phrased in the corny way. But again, as he goes throughout the movie and learning that by the end of the movie, yeah, it doesn't matter where I am so long as they're safe. I am home. Home is like the travel. It's not the location, I guess. In some funky of that. All right, so right now they're planning out the bed bomb.
Now, Dragon, this is kind of what I'm talking about with the start and stop of it all, because we get kind of a big stop with the with the stopover with the wife and the mother and seeing the daughter, and that's not bad. That's all character development. But then I don't know.
I'll something, Tiki. Let me tell you this. I feel Spielberg has a problem with the passage of time within the movie. I was thinking
thank you.
I was thinking less pacing, but more.
No. You hit it on the head there, though, because I feel like the passage of time is what's off about it. It does feel like I can't. I have a hard time grasping it, and because the movie is shot in just a couple locations, I also kind of have a hard time geographically being like, okay, now we're in London and now we're in Brooklyn. It's I know it's a little bit jumbled in that regard.
Dude, the thing is, I want to say by the end of the movie, like the movie takes course over a series of months. But then again, I can't tell because it might, for all I know, it might be years. It's probably months. But even so, the way it's presented just feels like okay, it's like just like they're still like on a trip and he just took a break.
Okay, here's the thing, Dragon. Here's the thing. I feel like the movie itself doesn't know exactly how long it takes.
Yeah.
Which makes sense considering the confidential nature of this whole thing.
The only way we can track, and the only way I can at least confirm, at least we see months pass, is that she moves into Brooklyn and the kid is. No,
I'm sure that months passed. I'm sure of that. I'm saying
that's the only way to tell, really, that like the passage of time is kind of try to nail. But again, the point being, it's impossible to perfectly nail down. Okay, so yet again, we have the bomb all set up here. And again, now here's what I really love through the course of the movie. I don't know, forgive me, I just keep repeating myself, but I do love the progression of the Eric Bana arc here. I love the progression of Abner's story here, where again, the idea is with the whole hospital scene, we framed essentially what the end of his story is. Like it's in the back of his head after that hospital scene. He knows what's important in life, and he's a little worried about protecting it, which of course will lead to whole paranoia in the third act. Now,
I love that shot of the Olympic Hotel, by the way.
Which is nice and very, a little symbolic of the Olympics, which kind of starts off the piece.
Yeah, exactly.
Very nice. And this is what I'm saying. I love that each kill is getting more personal and more difficult for them as they go on. It doesn't get easier with time. It gets a little bit, the violent act, it's easier, but I'm saying it gets a little bit more muddy for him morally each time. Because think about it. Now, Abner, he's really close to some innocence right now with the newlywed couple. But importantly, he has a conversation with the target. So he has a conversation with the target here. It's a very surface level conversation. Of course, later on in the movie, he's going to have a really intimate conversation with somebody who kind of shows up during an operation with Ali, the guy, the group of Arabs later on. They had to bunk together for the night.
Yeah.
So again, that's a more intimate conversation. I love that we're building to that though with a scene like this. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Like progressively, things are getting more personal and more like he's morally getting more invested.
So this is the mark, right?
Yeah, this guy's the mark. This is what I'm saying. He's having a
Uh,
very casual conversation where he's like nervous. He doesn't know what to do right now. But again, over time, he's going to see the other side of the conflict, and that's going to make things more muddy morally. Like Carl's been telling him the whole time, like, this is not the way to do this.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I'm here because I'm
Yeah.
loyal to my country. Because I'm loyal to Israel, but that doesn't mean I like what I'm doing now. And basically, Avner's trying not to think about it, and this is him starting to have to think about it because, well, yeah, you're having a conversation with the guy you're about to kill. I mean, that's gonna mess with you a little bit. And as it goes on,
So
he's
I
gonna
do
lose
like
all.
how the situation that these two find. I do like that the situation these two find themselves in are kind of it is very much like an absurd and realistic situation where it's like, yeah, two lovebirds going at it a little too hard in a hotel. Hey, you want a sleeping pill, man? Have one on me. I got you covered.
Yeah, and they have pleasant dreams, pleasantries.
Yeah, totally, totally. All right. But then, of course, as we pan back, we get
I mean, there,
the classic Spielberg tension.
no, there was a really funny bit earlier. I kind of forgot. I want to mention it now. I love that
Yeah.
when they were preparing the bed bomb, basically, it's going to self when he lays on the bed, they know it's armed. Essentially, that's the thing. Anyway, so when they were setting it up, they're talking about the risk of, well, he's going to be right next door to it. You sure it's a good idea? Yeah, Robert's got it covered, man. Right, Robert. And just Robert's not hearing for like Robert. Just saying, oh yeah, sure, yeah. Just again, like as we know, he's not fully prepared for this. So this is the big bomb explosion right now. I love how this was shot, man. It's almost shot like the car accident from Better Call Saul. And when Kim Wexler gets
Oh
in her
yeah.
car accident, we always have the immediate, just kind of like, oh boy, big boom, the whole set changes before her eyes like a flash. I love that
Totally,
idea, but
totally.
I've never seen an explosion kind of framed like this. That's what's so fascinating about this, the way they shot it. Again, so well
And
shot.
that is credit is where credit's due to this movie. Is that like we do? I mean, throughout, like from the violence to the explosions and everything in between, it is just incredibly realistic, gritty, and just unique in the way that it's shot.
It points the Janusz on this one, buddy boy. Points the Janusz.
Oh yeah.
Oh boy, that's what I'm saying. My favorite little detail in all of this, by the way, I love that the ceiling fans are now lower than the ceiling. It's like but they're still hanging there. There's like a funhouse quality to it. It's like a dark funhouse.
Right. Oh god. Oh god.
And what's really eerie about the scene when we run into the newlyweds and the chaos. Again, the whole movie's about aftermath, so we're seeing visual aftermath of our heroes in quotes performing an act of terrorism, but they're living in it.
Sure,
Where it's like
sure,
imagine
absolutely.
the terrorists do their thing. They usually don't like kind of live to see like you walk around after it's done like this, which is really a
Uh-huh.
heady idea. Of course, we have like the body parts. They gruesome again, not just gruesome just to throw it in there, but gruesome just to show a guy like body parts are strung around the place. That's what happens when you have a bomb like that, folks.
Okay, now that's how you do a hanging arm Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
And yet there's still like a little tiny bit of levity for the newlywed couple.
I felt so bad
Because
for
of
her though.
course because of course they're naked, of course they need towels.
Sure, but I mean, I love the fact that the really eerie thing about the scene is like, her eyes are like, scratched up and like, I don't know if she's gonna be able to see again from that bomb. Like that's kind
Oh,
of
that's
creepy.
true. That's
And she's
true,
like,
yeah.
I can't see. She's panicking throughout. I can't see. I can't see. It's like, oh god. Again, they live. They're not dead, but still. I love how we're framing this Eric Banner here. Like they're all quarreling in the background. Like who screwed up? Was it Louis or was it our guy? And our guy's swearing up that it wasn't him, so we're gonna trust him. And again, they're asking, can we
Uh-huh.
trust Louis? Again, can we trust Louis didn't sell us out? Which from what we understand, like Daniel Craig by the end of the movie, he's still convinced that Louis was setting him up by the end of things. Which again,
Yeah,
Eric
yeah,
Banner
yeah.
does not believe that. I err on the side of Banner because again, as we get to know Louis and his family, I believe they're straightforward. But I don't know.
Ooh.
The paranoia begins to enter the fray with the collaboration with Louis. And again, Louis does, and of course, this great shot here. Like, wait, whose boat is this? I love it. Daniel Craig stops. Wait a minute, whose boat is this? So this is a run as I'm
Nice
looking.
pan out shot right there.
I love that this is their meeting place, looking in front of the furniture place.
Mhm.
Man, Bana is rocking that hat. I don't know why. I just want to get in there. He looks great. As the movie goes on, we kind of lose the fashion as he goes. When he gets super paranoid by the third act, he ditches like all the swagger he's got going on. Right
No,
now.
it's totally an intentional wardrobe move for sure. Yeah.
All right, so now this is what I'm talking about, the whole like collect them all angle here. Where again, if you're keeping track, it's okay. So far they've killed 3, and now 3 more. It's like okay, now we're moving faster in the narrative. Awesome, so we're getting close to the 11. Which of course we don't get to the 11, which is like another thing, kind of deflates things a little. But again, that's what happens. So I can't really have too many qualms with it. You go to the text on the screen. They got 9 out of the 11.
Well, they got the main guy. That's what counts.
Hey, you're right. That is what counts. So. Not in this movie, though, but they got him in the text at the end of the movie.
Well, you know what, Dragon? We can't win them all.
I know. I'm just telling. I'm just saying.
This isn't Zero Dark 30, Dragon.
Oh, no. And again, if you saw the Adam Driver movie, you'd be horrified by that Zero Dark 30 moment.
Oh, God.
So again, now Louis is drawing his foot. He's drawing the line in the sand here, warning him that again we don't. He knows giving him the 3 names and basically him putting 2 and 2 together. These guys are taking him out. The whole idea is like they're using American money to pay for all this to show they're not working for the Mossad. They are working for like a private American doing all this. Mm-hmm. So basically, him saying like we don't do governments, and we're going to learn why during my favorite scene in the movie, why they don't do governments, why they don't trust them. But that's the thing. We're drawing a line in the sand. No governments, no affiliations, none of that. We find out you're working for a government, even if we just have a sense of it. You will never see me again. Which again means the whole mission's for naught. They have no way of finding out who the targets are, at least in a short way. They have to probably be on the job for years in that case, trying to find the targets.
Sure.
Okay, here we go. Here's the one scene Jeffrey Rush has with the whole cast, with the whole assortment now.
Right.
And I love it. It's over. I love again. It's over like breakfast or something, right? And it's like over a meal.
These guys are foodies, man. I like that these guys appreciate their food.
They do. Just love the idea of like breakfast together. It's like they're all bunkies.
Well, Spielberg knows how to film a good dinner table or breakfast table conversation, Dragon. We've seen it many a times.
So now we're talking about the Beirut job. So essentially, the conflict here is that basically, going after 3 names would be a pricey affair as well. So it's going to cost a lot of money to go after the name, which already gets the Mossad's go with that receipt guy, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, we're looking at success versus practicality. Or basically, they want to give him backup for this scene, which Abner is arguing we don't need backup. We can handle 3 guys, 3 targets, which is more than they've been taking one at a time. Whereas no, you're going to need backup, and of course, he knows if we have backup, it's going to set off the government flags. Like, oh god, there's going to be a whole skirmish. If there's if not collateral damage, if there's at least a big hoopla, like a number of military guys attack these guys, that spells government, that spells someone in the know, which is going to ruin their connections. That's what Abner's worried about. He wants to get the 11 names where basically it's like, if we screw up, Louis is going to cut off the connections, which means we're going to be stuck, and it's all going to be for nothing.
Right.
Abner's worst fear is learning what you and I know to be true. This is all for nothing, essentially. It's the message of the movie. It's like, did you do it? It was kind of, in a sense, it was kind of for nothing with everything that you lost.
Yeah, Dragon, and that's kind of why this movie is a little bit of a hard pill to swallow on rewatches, because
and again, you're not wrong.
Especially this middle of the movie, Dragon. I will say this middle of the movie drags, because at the end of the day, it is all for nothing, and it is just kind of like checking names off of a list. And I think that there is a point where where the movie kind of picks back up, and I will point it out because, ironically enough, it is also where we get the really good Daniel Craig moment I've been hyping up.
So, real quick, one of my really funny moment in that scene with Ephraim, we have you can't fire him; he doesn't work for you. That's true; he doesn't work for him. They're all off the books. He's like, shut up. It's really funny. Okay, so this actually did happen in real life. There was a kill and drag where basically they dressed up like women to kind of get under the radar and take out some of the guys here.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they're all dressed.
And this is yet another very suspenseful scene. In a different way, though. It is we see kind of like the clinical nature of it. We see just kind of like how it just how it all sort of pans out in a very matter of fact tone. Just we're seeing all these bodies kind of add up.
Something interesting about the scene too is they're all the way that they're all changing right now, and again, it maybe in some ways mirrors the opening where again our guys were changing out from the into their terrorist gear. They were changing from the athlete's gear into the terrorist gear, and again, it's a little parallel there. Again, we're seeing like they're still doing an act of terrorism right now, but again, like for a cause. Which again.
Oh no, I absolutely noticed the. I'm glad you bring it up. I absolutely noticed the parallel between the terrorists changing, because I do think that is a mirror, Dragon. I do think, not to sound cliche, but at the heart of it, it is kind of like two wrongs don't make a right kind of
exactly.
story.
It's very eye for an eye being the moral of the story here. It's like it's not going to solve.
Right.
You're going to go blind. You're going to lose sight of yourself in a sense. This is what I'm talking. This also is where things get really muddy in terms of like the whole like separation from how things really went on. Again, there's a little bit of collateral damage here, but again, it's from the Mossad, so it's okay. It's like this is where again, if the whole thing's like we can't have any collateral damage. Where you guys, you kind of did some collateral damage, and you're still going on with the mission here. So it's, I mean, they're supposed to be. Remember, like the whole reason this thing happens is because he sweet talks Ephraim and okay, let us do the Beirut mission, so I can get the target, and then we'll go from there. I mean, we kind of have it where Avner, he tries to get the big name from Louis. That's what he tries to do before Louis cuts off the connection. That's what he's afraid of after the scene. Is Louis going to get wind of this? He's going to cut off the connection, but he's trying to get he wants salami. He wants to get salami. It was before we're completely cut off and we have to go home because things got screwed up here, and they might not be happy with that. But it's I don't know. We're still missing kind of a blank there. Like why would Ephraim allow this to go on? That's the story beat we're missing. Why would we?
Yeah, especially because we've seen Ephraim just just be such a stern leader in other moments in the movie, and it really is kind of like a gimme.
Yeah.
But I mean, having said that, this is some harrowing shit. I'm not going to deny that.
I was afraid at the start of the movie, once we revealed it was going to be more of an aftermath movie, I was afraid we were going to get bogged down in more of like the politics and stuff like that. But in all fairness, we did it very, very fewly here. So I'll give them points on that. This is important, though. This kid saves this kid, and this kid's going to come back later. It's going to screw everything up. And again, the humanity within the war, again, very much, the war zone at home versus the battlefield within that whole action sequence. And within the whole action sequence, it's transpiring right now. And again, like Avner showing some restraint by not killing a kid, again, trying to avoid really costly collateral damage, again, later on will lead to tragedy with target number one.
But I do like how each kill is getting on a bigger and bigger scale, where, we've evolved from, kind of a small explosion into a much bigger explosion, and now this is just straight up street warfare almost.
Exactly. And again, we're bringing it to the home front. Basically, we've turned the home front into like a battlefield, which is not right. No one wins when we do this sort of stuff. This is like what we want to avoid. And again, a lot of this too, again, what we're seeing transpire is also, again, the cautionary tale, and the reason I think maybe it's in some part of Spielberg's mind is the reason he chooses to do this movie now, again, the post 9/11 trend of his movies, where it's like, okay, I want to caution people, this is the kind of stuff we want to avoid in the war on terror and everything. We don't want this to happen on the home front.
Sure.
Okay, so this is the big scene. Again, I do like the direct aftermath of this. Well, let me make it clear. I do like this half. We're just missing the Ephraim part of it all. But again, this does make sense. This does track. And again, it leads to my favorite scene in the movie, so why should I complain? But it's good stuff. It's him basically saying, okay, well, you got to answer to Papa, especially if you want to keep on going. And again, if he drives, basically in this scene, if he drives off right now, he ain't coming back, which is why Avner, he takes the risk of going without telling his men where he's going. Because for all he knows, as far as Louis is concerned, Louis thinks he's going to get killed or he's going to get dismembered in a horrible way if he goes on this little field trip with him. And they both leave the scene really surprised. I love this dude as a band. Is like, oh, come on, Louis, that's crazy. It's just crazy. I'm saying, this is why I really ban this movie too, is when he does this sort of stuff. You're like, okay, all right, wait.
So you really like this Papa character, I'm assuming,
I
Dragon.
love him, man. I love the whole French countryside. When we go to visit Pop, I love that whole scene. He's
Two
great.
thumbs up for Poppy.
Yes, he gets the thumbs up from Poppy for sure. Yeah, I mean it's very Godfather like, but in the family.
It's very Godfather for sure. I'm not as into it as you are, I don't think, Dragon, just because I do think it's a little on the nose of like, oh, look, it's very much Godfather. It's very much kind of like hammering in the family matters message. Honestly, I think pacing wise, it's a little bit of a detour. So it's
You know,
interesting. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's interesting that we have kind of these two different perspectives on it.
yeah. So let's see. So also, I believe we're in Budapest as the French countryside here, as kind of our Godfather compound, if you will. Very much kind of the home of the Corleones with the orange, with the field with the oranges and everything. That whole thing, the Orange Grove. So of course, like this is really nice. You see, like all the kids, like the families having a little get together, and I love that the little girl leads Avner to Papa. So of course, when we meet Papa, what I love about that, of course, he's played by Michael Lonsdale. Michael Lonsdale, he was the Bond villain in Moonraker. So the Roger Moore Bond went up against him. So yeah, so again, like right, basically, they have this really great conversational scene. We established that Avner is a cook. That he cooked them the brisket earlier on. So again, like these two men are kind of bonding, and I love the coded conversation, the coded dialogue between the two, where Papa here he kind of mentions like we both have these large butcher's hands. That's why we could be better cooks, but our large these butcher's hands, but we're gentle souls. Like that's essentially the line there, which again speaks to who they are. Where they're doing ugly things, but they have gentle souls, which doesn't make them ugly people, but they're doing ugly things.
Yeah.
Kind of summarizes Abner perfectly. I thought it's kind of that's the main. Basically, I think the scene overall, this whole sequence again, it really aids in Abner's character, and again, kind of makes Blue even more purposeful than he already was. It adds dimension to him a little bit there. So, of course, big parallels to fatherhood, and again, family as a home being the idea. It's kind of a big one. And like the reasons that you do questionable things, you do them for your family, and that's what I'm saying. I love that this whole scene takes such a left turn than where you thought it was going to go. When he had that knife, I thought, oh, God, he's going to try to separate a finger, he's going to threaten him with the knife or something. Where no, it did not go that way at all. It was a very sweet scene. It was just took such a refreshing left turn.
Okay, maybe my issue with it, and I'm trying to find one because you seem to just be way on board with this when I just think it's fine. It's not necessarily bad, but I'm not in love with it by any means. It kind of takes away a little bit of the mystery.
You mean the mystery?
Kind of takes some. Well, not just that, but just like like we know that the information is good now.
We do, but we also know it goes
halfway into the runtime. I just feel like it kind of deflates that whole conflict a little bit.
Well, not entirely, because we know he deals to both sides though later on, so this still doesn't take out all the tension there.
All right.
And there is some fun tension within this scene as well too, where we see that. Here's the thing: I don't know if this. I don't even know if this is going to change your tune at all. And by all means, it doesn't matter. But it's Louis in this scene. He's really. It's kind of the personal and the business sides kind of conflicting against each other. Because I really think Louis is really jealous of him in this scene and afterwards. And I think he kind of set. And there's a speculative tension. Like, did Louis set him up on the job that goes south after this? Because he's jealous of him in this scene.
Dragon, I'm sorry, man. I mean,
it's fine. I understand kind of the way I read it.
It's a fine scene. No, but this is your favorite scene in the movie, and I'm just like not really on board with it. I just. I just feel like I've seen this type of character before. And yeah, it's a nice subversion that he doesn't start chopping off fingers or anything like that. And you're right about the rivalry. It goes on too long. It goes on too long.
You
I'm
might
just
look.
gonna
You
say
might be
it.
right. Okay, it's fine. You might be. Look, I'm not saying you're wrong at all here, Tiki. I'm just saying I liked it though. That's the difference. It's
All right.
anyway. So here's the thing. I love that he's. What we're saying. We're realizing this guy. He's smart enough to know that what he's up to. He kind of knows. He basically what he's saying here is he knows he's working for the Mossad, but he's not really. He's not going to ding him for. He's like, I know you're doing it. Just don't drag us into your business. That essentially is the point of the whole scene. I love that he kind of forgives him for Beirut. And again, basically the reason he really respects him is that whole you abide by your father. It's like you can call me Papa. Says like, I already have a Papa. That's what cements the relationship. I love that the loyalty factor. That's what's really cool
Uh-huh.
about the scene. And this is where it drags on. I'll admit this the whole dinner table thing is where it drags on. But basically what we're doing here is we're getting a little bit of exposition within the jealousy, where essentially he says, governments force basically governments are like changing regimes that kind of like force this out of place and did terrible things to us. That's why we don't trust government. So he kind of does that through like a really tense little prayer scene. And it's a little beautiful moment though, where he gives recognition to Avner's world, where like, hey, even though you're not saying it, I know that you're essentially Jewish here, so you don't have to do the cross if you don't want to. It's like nice. I love the niceties within the scene. It's just kind of a really pleasant scene again, really kind of elevates the Papa character. It's a nice little exchange, and again, a little bit of father figure, dad issues thing, perhaps, in some extent as well.
Man, just drags.
It again, you're not wrong.
I'm sorry.
Drags, it's fine. It's enjoyable though.
And then the whole thing of this movie, like, kind of one of my big points, it's like, it's not that I want this movie to be wall-to-wall action, of course. Like, I really don't. I don't like wall-to-wall action.
Apparently
but I
Seth
feel like
Rogen
this movie just, well, God. This movie just takes a lot of detours, Dragon. It takes a lot of detours to there's a lot of different roadmaps and the Papa connection. And first of all, I feel like I don't necessarily like the fact that it's like this guy's just like, oh, we have to call him Papa. That's the name of the character. It's just Papa.
That's cute.
I knew you thought it would be cute. I don't want to say it, Dragon, but I feel like you're biased just because this character is like up your wheelhouse.
I mean, look, I do want to give voice to one more thing from that scene here. Where I do love at the end of it, he made the very stern point at the end, like, we'll do business, but as you said, you are not family. You didn't call me Papa, therefore you're not family.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's like a soft touch, but a firm reminder. It's kind of the big point of the scene. But you're right, bit of a bloated detour, but it's a nice detour. It's a detour down a nice countryside road, if you will.
I just want to see Jews kick some ass and blow shit up, Dragon. That's what I'm here for.
If you want that, go to Hunters. I keep telling you, watch Hunters. That's why you should watch Hunters. Okay. Okay. So importantly here again, like now he knows the risk that he's in because he just made kind of like a promise to to Papa not to drag him into the business, not to drag him into the government business. Basically, when they come asking who your source is, don't tell him. And that's why he's really pushing for salami. And Louis, whether at a jail, because eventually he does give him salami. But right now, he's still steadfastly not giving him salami because it's too difficult to get to him. He's giving somebody else that he thinks potentially out of jealousy. Maybe it'll put him through his paces. Maybe he'll get killed. Maybe that'll be my revenge. He'll get the punishment I deemed that he actually deserved. I don't know. Because he is whatever the intention is, at the very least, he is price gouging and probably out of revenge. Because the grouping of names now is 200,000 per name, so pretty much all their operating budget per kill.
Right, you would think there'd be some sort of discount.
Oh no! Again, I think it's purely out of the jealousy. He's not giving the discount.
But of course, this does set up, the Hydra element of it all. It's like, okay, now we have to kill people that weren't even originally on the list just to cut off the heads of the snake that are going to keep growing back.
Exactly. Because they're trying to go in like a scalpel versus a machete approach, where again, they don't want to like kill Arabs willy-nilly. They want to kill like the 11 names on that list. Like, let's just try to kill as few people as possible. In this case, they're going to have to kill all the guys they're about to bunk with. And this is what I'm saying. This to me feels like Louis had to set him up. At the very least, he gave him a complication. Like, okay, you know what? I'm going to give him a safe house. There's also a safe house for someone else. No, suspecting what I suspect, probably not going to get along, and that'll be like, again, it's like they're not doomed that they're smart, so we'll see if they get through this.
Louis like setting up a sitcom, Dragon.
Pretty much. So that's what I'm saying. That's. I think that's the main point of the detour. But then again, it goes on along with the Grace scene. So I don't know.
But then again, I feel like we're in a lot of detours here now.
Yeah,
with the hotel room too.
Yeah, this absolutely. You mean the safe house?
Yeah, the safe house. I'm sorry, not the hotel
right
room.
now, that's not really. It's kind of a lousy hotel. I say that because the hotel we do go to later is really nice. That's the only reason I say that.
You're right. You're right.
Okay, anyway, so this scene right now, this is the big. This is where things definitely get interesting. So this whole encounter is fictional, by the way. They have confirmed like this never happened at all because it just seems a little too cinematic, doesn't it? It seems like they were both in the same place at the same time.
And Louis set him up. It really does, and I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe
Louis
that's another reason why I'm not fully on board with this movie. Is that it feels like it plays really fast and loose with the historical stuff. I can kind of tell.
And again, you're absolutely right. It does. Yeah. So it's. I mean, again, yeah. And again, really cleverly with this team, and I will give the scene points for this. Again, the scene that I'll give the scene points, but again, like, do we need it? We just have it in there for tension. But again, story-wise, it does help forward Abner's thing with the scene that he has with the one guy. Where he has the conversation with the one, with Ali, the leader of these other, the other Arab group that essentially is being put on the scent of the other guys. It's essentially what they're doing. They're protecting a guy who's probably going to be a target through this group that's kind of taking people out. And it's that I love the conceit that because none of them are strictly Israeli, because again, the whole Yankee Jew of it all, he's German before he's Jewish, as far as the world is concerned. Therefore, none of them are strictly Israeli. Therefore, they don't know any of them are affiliated with Mossad or Israel, any of the like. Therefore, it's like they're kind of slipping right under their noses, and we get to kind of see some humanizing bits between the two of them in conversation. And is your Steven bit the bit coming up?
Yes, it is. Yes.
I didn't think of that. That's a good scene. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
It is, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, I just realized it now. I was going through it in my mind. Like, oh my God, it's his moment.
It's his moment, Dragon. It's his moment. I told you.
Yeah, it's a good moment.
It is. It's his moment of like throughout the whole movie. All right, we'll build to it.
You're right. Okay, anyway, so again,
good. I'm glad you see the light, Dragon. I'm glad you see the light.
Look, I see the light, but still now I know what you're talking about. Still, I mean, it's a bit. It's not really much. That's what I'm saying.
I think it's not much, but it's not. He's not a huge character. He doesn't need to be a huge character. He's the getaway driver, and I feel like the fact that a getaway driver has a nice moment like this is still it's a good character bit.
Here's what I really like about this moment. I like it's like the war of the music between the two factions, where again it's like we're setting a tone of humanity within the actual conflict. Where this is really what it is. They have different tastes. It's like we're boiling the war and the conflict down to a very simple, universal thing. We have different musical tastes. It's like the old Dr. Seuss thing. These guys have stars on their bellies. These guys do not. They're different.
Exactly.
And they probably get along.
You know who we can all agree on, Dragon?
Al Green.
We can all agree on Al Green. You're goddamn right.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's what I'm saying. There's the beautiful thing. Like, that's the beautiful truth of the conflict within all the murder and carnage. It's like, you know what, they could get along if they just made
look at that face on Daniel Craig. All right, kind of like just the quietly reserved. Like, yeah, you like that.
It's great, but Tiki, this is what I'm saying. We have bits with him that are really nice, but by the same token, like he has like a legit moment with every other person in the group, with the exception of him. That's what bothers me about it. It's like everyone else but him.
All right, whatever. I still think it's a nice bit.
No, they are nice bits. I'm just saying it doesn't really give him a lot of character-wise. It makes him fun, but it's like
I said, I think the character Dragon, the character moment with him with the radio scene, really is just kind of like illustrated earlier on with the dancing. It's just kind of like this is a guy where it's like he's doing a job, but he's not necessarily losing his humanity in the process.
Yeah, sure. All right, so here's the big scene here where, again, Abner is now having kind of an extended version of that balcony conversation he had with the enemy. It was directly the target. In this case, he's having a conversation with the opposition.
Mm-hmm.
where he's kind of seeing, what a big quote of the movie will be "Home is everything." Because again, home is everything. Home is why they're both fighting the war that they're fighting right now. It's basically dueling legacies for the next generation. Little fun fact. So you see that key around that guy's neck?
Yes, yes.
So apparently, the idea behind this is that the Arabs, basically, when this land dispute happened, when certain people were forced out of their houses, they had to grab what they could before they left, and essentially, many of them grabbed keys to their houses so they can get back to their houses. They get back to their homes. Again, home being everything. And this actor, what he did is his headcanon is kind of his thing for his character was that's the key to his father's house.
Ah, I like that. I like that. Nice.
But importantly, again, so the
Dragon,
whole,
I'm curious. Where do you find all these fun facts? Because I was. Is there like a making of somewhere?
Yeah. There's making ofs on the DVD. You can find them on YouTube, I think. So at least most of them.
Ah, you have the DVD. I don't think you can find them on YouTube. I don't know. Maybe
you can find some of them on YouTube. I've looked at them.
I was combing YouTube. I was trying to look for them.
Yeah, they're given fancy names. That's probably why I couldn't find them.
All right.
Portrait of an Error and stuff like that. So. Mm-hmm. I forget which one that they kind of mentioned that, but you get they talked with the guy. He mentioned his backstory for the key and everything. So, yeah. But yeah, home is everything is very much the line of the movie and is very much kind of the connecting point between these two characters. And again, I love how we kind of frame it with Abner's whole thing about going home. All right, so we are yet again in Malta. Again, Malta pretty much being all of our exotic locations as we go to Greece. Now, Tiki, How do you feel about this? Like, I want to call him the landlord. Oh, it's a hotel. He's the hotel manager guy. This guy.
I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion on him either way, to tell you the truth.
I'm just saying, like, given that they kind of kidnap him and everything, he's just always like, he's kind of like a little bit of silent comedy with this character almost. We're just like, he honestly had no idea what he's saying, but he's just really getting manic and like they're bribing him and they just like. It just kind of is along for the ride for a bit. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's fun.
So yeah, this whole affair definitely goes sideways with yet another bombing screw up.
Oh yeah.
To be fair, and again, Louis might have tried to screw him over a little bit here, where he gave him like really old bomb making materials. So that didn't help either when you have an inexperienced bomb maker. I'll give Steve points here. I like that he's smart though. Like he's like taking out the lampposts and everything. I mean, yeah, again, he's got bits. You know what it is, Tiki, and it's not. Here's the thing: he is fun, but it's just the fact he doesn't have like a legit conversation with the guy. That's what bothers me. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
I mean, I see what you're saying, but I don't know, Dragon. This kind of speaks to Spielberg's style, though, because I feel like Spielberg, like when you look at a movie like Jurassic Park, right? Jurassic Park has a lot of memorable characters, and not all of them have a heart-to-heart with Alan Grant.
Oh, yeah, you got a point there.
It's like, I don't think Alan Grant even ever meets Nedry.
No, but to be fair, they're not all on a team together in that movie, though. That's the thing. I'm saying they're all.
No, you're right, together. But Muldoon and Alan Grant only like briefly pass by each other.
That's fair.
So I don't know. I just feel like you can have a compelling character and not have him be like an end all be all like tied to the main character's narrative.
Sure. Of course, now the Russians are waiting, and this gives them pause here because something's amiss. Essentially, they're waiting for the backup that was their bunkies just now.
Mm.
And again, Abner's making a call here of like, darn the consequences, even if there might be casualties. We can pretty much assume they're probably kind of bad casualties here because he's won the bomb in the place. And again, Abner's slowly but surely losing himself here, and Carl's going to remind him of that.
Yep.
Oh boy. And the bomb is Kaputsky.
And it is a really cool kind of build to the feeling of the bombs, because it's like at first it's too soft and then it's too big, and you would think that this would be the just right Dragon, right?
Yeah, you'd think. Because he really,
but it's not.
Bomb through even his come up, well, not his come up, even like his demise again is through a bombing mishap essentially. So it's
Uh-huh.
yet a, so this is a brave. I love this suicide run Hans does. This is a very brave thing he does. He's not even like really like the in the field action guy. He's just kind of there if
This
he's
is
the plan.
definitely his moment, I think,
It is.
right?
This is what I'm saying. Everyone gets a moment like this, but you know what I mean. Yeah, everyone usually gets a moment like this.
Well, you know what? He's just the getaway driver.
He
Being the
is.
getaway
That's
driver
what
is
I'm
the
saying. I'm
moment in the
trying not
film.
to be hard on it because here's the thing. I do what Daniel Craig doesn't want to really do life in the scene where we reveal that the bomber doesn't know what he's doing because in the panic of the scene you see Daniel Craig's reaction. That's the thing. He's just it's unique that I don't know. I don't know because I'm going in the movie because Daniel Craig was the main recognizable guy. He's like the only recognizable guy outside of Banner you have in the cast, along with Jeffrey.
Yeah.
Going into the thing, you know, it's like you think Daniel Craig will get a little bit more. Like, yeah, I'm coming off of like Road to Perdition. Daniel Craig is like what? But you know,
all right. Well, to be fair, this is still pre James Bond.
Sure.
It's not like the guy was a big movie star yet.
You're right. Right here, very gutsy move right here. Is like you taking the grenade. Just gonna make it work himself here. And oh, guy's fumbling the Spielbergian tension right now. Like, oh, guy's fumbling with the little pin. And he has to shove the guy in the room to boot too. Oh God, it's so. Look at that again. Each explosion being very different here. Look at all those fireworks, man. That ain't good.
But I love how this is the only explosion we really see from the inside, where the first impact we see is the door flying on him.
Yeah. Now this guy. Oh God, this guy's now realizing what he was tipped off, what he was paid off to do. Because I don't know what he thought they were going to do, just getting in the room first. But then again, it's just the sheer pain. The Russians don't speak Greek. They have no idea what he's saying. I love that last second save though from Abner. He shoots the Russians, the nick of time to save good old Hans there. So now, oh God, this is this great star-crossed moment too. Like, oh God, it's you. Well, we just had that we had that interesting conversation just a while ago, and we're shooting each other.
Right.
And again, that's the thing. And so again, as we go forward, and Abner's having like after these personal moments, like people they're then getting killed, and he's kind of having to live with the trauma of that. Again, interesting that Carl of all people shoots him though, and again, Carl who's feeling what Abner is now starting to feel.
And I do like that moment of the guy getting shot and just kind of like quietly going to his knees. You know, that the realistic violence, Dragon. That's definitely the movie's high point.
Yeah. Certainly. Again, I love this clown car effect coming up here where oh God, look, this is horrifying. Look at the guy with his arms stretched out. That's haunting.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I love this clown car sequence. This is what I'm talking about. Daniel Craig having this moment coming up here where they're all just like, tell them to shut up. Okay, we're just literally all of our characters squeeze in this little car, and now Daniel Craig's about to realize, oh God, our bomb maker, he's not trained to do this. He's trained to dismantle bombs, not build them. And the main reason I guess it's more Carl. Oh, they both have the reaction. There we go. Just want to make sure of that. Yeah. Just like, oh my God, that's why none of our bombs have gone off. He's a toy maker who's been trying to build, like, he can build things like toys, and he can take apart things like bombs, put it together, it might work.
But that's just not science, Dragon. That's just not science.
That is not science.
I think Matt Damon would be ashamed, Dragon. We did not science the shit out of this situation.
Oh no, we didn't. No. You know, it's funny. I thought this was an Italian thing here, like in Malika. It's kind of there was an old maybe it bridges cultures. I don't know because you do like you curse them. That's not like a curse word, but you put like a hex on them, this sort of thing.
Remember
that from All in the Family. Anyway, so again, the way I read this scene is that Louis is impressed that he made it after all that. So now, in a show of respect, like I kind of screwed you over, but you made it out alive. You did your thing. I'm gonna give you the name you want so badly.
Sure.
By the same token, he does also spell out kind of the really kind of haunting heresy of it all here. That Salam, the reason he's so hard to get to, he works for the CIA. Yet again, being rewarded for terrorism. The enemy is like the Arabs are being rewarded for the terrorism, which is kind of It's kind of a sad, weird fact too that essentially there was some there. I forget the specificities of this. But basically, during our own war on terror, there was like some sort of crossover where America was giving money to certain factions, and it wasn't. It's like I think it was I forget who exactly, but it was a whole thing.
Like,
One thing America has.
There's a whole history of Al Qaeda and America. Like they were I don't know a ton, but I know that they were pretty much in cahoots with each other before the new regime took over.
And that's what I'm talking. That's what I'm clunkily trying to explain to you. You got it so much better than I do right now. Essentially, yes, there was. I don't want to get the name wrong too, because I forget I don't think it was Bin Laden, but it might have been. I think it was maybe Hussein. But the point being, I'm embarrassing myself right now with history, but you understand my point. The point being, America has egg on its face with in terms of having some affiliation with terrorist groups, and we're kind of a little bit of history repeating itself here as well. So, but the fact that again the CIA is working, and that's why he hasn't been kind of nabbed, and that's why he's kind of been able to walk free, which is not good, and that's the biggest insult to him. The guy who actually planned the Munich massacre is like he's getting away scot free.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a big moment here too, where Carl's getting called out by Steven here, and it gets really insulting here towards poor Carl. Just kind of challenging his heritage, saying, "Are you really loyal? Are you a double agent?" And of course, like after everything he's suffered and lost, it's like, how dare you call me that?
Yeah, and like you said, Carl is kind of like the
moral center,
the moral compass of the whole thing.
Absolutely, like he's saying, we spill blood on both sides, and then the war's just going to keep going on. We're replacing people. But again, he's still willing to serve the cause, and Hans here is pointing out, like, look, just ask if it's so distasteful, and get it reassigned, all right? If you can't do it, but no, he's going to do it. He just doesn't like it, and he wants to make it known that he doesn't like it. Now we're going to Budapest for London coming up here. And again, we're going to definitely know it's London because the double-decker buses.
Yeah, Dragon. Like I said, I think in general the set design in this movie is on point. It is. I'm not going to deny that. But yeah, the double-decker buses and the rain, it's like, oh, it's obvious. We're obviously in London. Look,
now,
it must be London.
London does have alleys kind of like this, though. Like when you walk across, like it does look. It looks enough like it looks. I was fooled by it practical in the first before I found out about the making. I was like, okay, I don't know if they were in London, but it looks enough like London. So here's an interesting thing, Tiki. It's never fully defined, but it's speculated. The Americans who are going to get in the way of what happens, it's speculated in the movie as well that they were CIA agents pretending to be drunk to protect Salami.
That is one of the most interesting, kind of ambiguous points in the whole movie, Dragon.
Yeah.
What I like about that whole moment is it really is one of the first moments that kind of
fuels the paranoia.
Kind of gets. Yeah, exactly. Get Eric Bana's paranoia into high gear. It's just kind of like, okay, anyone on the street could be in on this, could be trying to stop us. Like, we are in over our heads here.
Yeah, and again, you could read it one of two ways. One, you read it again with the whole paranoia thing, which I think is the way it's supposed to be read too. Those drug. It seems too perfectly timed that just as they were about to get the guy, they're met by drunks, and the thing that makes me think they are CIA, because why would the drunk punch him just out of left field? Just because you recognize him, like, hey, buddy, punch. Like, how? Come on, how was that a way to
Right.
But again, on the off chance that it's not, I think it's either that. Ideally, it's the CIA thing. Otherwise, it's kind of like maybe kind of a parable for America, and that the Americans do not really show up too much in this movie. They're gonna we mention the CIA and we show them here. It's like perhaps we're saying, yeah, we kind of botch things up, and we're just trying to kind of show that here as well. So again, take it for what you will, whether it's just it's a metaphor or if it's just actually CIA. But I think smart way.
I like that it can be both. That it can be both, but I really do think it is a CIA.
Yeah, that's the better idea.
because I think it's just too much of a coincidence. Like you said, the punch really does say everything. It's like, okay, like no. First of all, I don't think a drunk guy can like really swing that good for starters. You know, it was a good, solid punch to the face.
Yeah, solid right cross, if you will.
Yeah, there was no sloppiness to that punch, Dragon.
The rain in this scene looks good, man. Spielberg's kind of got a monopoly on rain. And the middle finger adds insult to injury too. But come on, guys, you know you're worth protecting a bad guy. He did the Munich thing. Why you gotta add insult to injury? If they are CIA, they're really pricks. Let's be honest. Okay, so this is a really nice hotel we're in right now. I just want to mention that too, especially when we go up to the rooms. The rooms are really nice.
God.
But
no, you're not wrong though. You're not wrong. I'm sorry. It's very, to me, Dragon. I get kind of thrown off because this bar is very Overlook-esque.
Yeah. Yeah, it is very Overlook-esque.
You know, with the red velvet and the old-fashioned bartender and everything.
Yep. Oh yeah. So let's see. So now, yeah.
This is a detour. This is another big detour.
Yes, it is a detour. Now, here's the thing. So we're entering the section of the film now where we're basically it's kind of a plot contrivance thing. We need to whittle Abner's team down to just him. Well, him and Steve, but essentially, at the end of the day, we got to get Abner alone for our story. Basically, with each person who leaves the team, we're sanding away his humanity, and he's losing pieces of himself with his team. That's the purpose.
But this is a big gimme, Dragon. This is a big gimme, though. And
I mean,
I'm sorry, I sound like a broken record, but this initial flirting thing goes on far too long. Especially because it's like, we know that this guy's a married man, and we know that this guy's like not going to try anything. You know, it's like, I get that it as a point in retrospect, like obviously it leads to a big event, but I don't know, like watching it play out, it was just really kind of dragging.
Let me ask you this. Do you think this character as a whole, given like the important thing that happens after this scene, or are you saying this scene itself is like the fat we could have trimmed?
I'm saying this scene itself has fat that could be trimmed. Yeah. I'm saying like we could get the general idea of this scene down without really going through all the motions of the scene, if you know.
Like we could have just seen Carl like, kind of talking her up and then cut to.
Exactly. Yeah,
I hear you on that. I do like, again, like this is. Or
we could just see We could just see the extended conversation from Carl's point of view and not Eric Bana's point of view. Just because, like I said, it feels redundant when it's Eric Bana because we're already so locked into his family life.
Sure,
we know that he's not going to do anything.
Of course. I mean, I'll say this, though. This doesn't necessitate the bit at all, because, again, you're right, we don't need this scene. But by the same token, I do like that. This is just me, because I'm very anti-adultery. I don't like it. But it's like, I love the idea that because he was faithful to his wife, it saved his life. I thought that was kind of nice. Yeah, I get it's stupid, but you know what I mean. It's like, the point being, yeah, you're right, we don't, yeah. It's nice flirting, though. I mean, completely kind of, we don't need it in the movie at all. It's just, basically, the only reason it's there is so we can ID her later. That's the main reason it's there. I mean, but again, we could have done it. We could have done it later. Now, important. This is what I'm talking about. Every last scene between these characters are really interesting, really haunting. And that the last scene that he has, this is where he's saying those drunk Americans probably CIA. And again, by the same token, like Louis could also be in the CIA. We have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, this kind of last conversation he has with Carl here is, again, just kind of like reestablishing kind of the point, and also kind of like setting from the paranoia. He's kind of passing on the paranoia baton to Eric Bana here.
He is. Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
He's going to stick with him. I think in this scene, I could be wrong. I want to say this is the scene where he gave him the stillness line, where essentially, I kvetch so I can do my job, I complain so I can do my job. Where essentially at the end of the scene he says, a guy like you and I are similar, but a guy like you, the thing you fear, because you just follow orders, the thing you fear is stillness, which of course that's all the paranoia stuff for the third act, where again, things just get still and you think you go back to living your life where you can't. Because you can be looking over your shoulder even when there's nothing to look over your shoulder for. So that's the thing. That's the important takeaway of this scene. Again, as we go forward, he's going to have like another scene like this with each of the guys as they kind of get taken out of the equation.
Sure, sure.
But it was a nice scene, though. Again, like him just thinking he does care for the Eric Bana character. He does care for Avner. And also, this is a tragic line to what he says here. It's such a sad line where he says, he's about to get a drink. Says, "Oh, nice shot to the brain should help." He says
beware the local honey trap. You can't miss her.
Again, that's what's so sad about it. He warns her about the girl and says, a shot. I need a shot to numb the brain, which, of course, is going to be what kills him. So that's tragic. That's so sad. And again, doesn't cheat on his wife. He gets to live.
Very much like 80s horror movie rules, Dragon.
Yeah. Yeah, Scream rules. Okay, this is kind of a nice moment too with the phone call. Again, yeah, with this might have helped minimize some detours as well. But then again, we only had like the scene of the birth and then this. So I mean, like a phone call scene kind of helps.
I don't. Here's a controversial take for me saying that this movie's a little padded. I do think we need the stuff with his family. I think we need both of those scenes just because we do need something to ground Eric Bana, and so. I don't know, Dragon. When I say padding, I mostly think of the other stuff that's kind of like in between. I almost wish this would be more of a character piece about Eric Bana at the expense of maybe some of the other side characters, just because we can kind of agree the side characters, as much as I like Steve and as much as you like Carl, they're not the most well-developed Spielberg characters in the world. They really are just kind of like accessories, you know?
They're all accessories.
Even the best of them.
Basically, what he did is he took Avner and kind of divvied him up into these characters. They're all pieces of himself.
Right. That's a perfect way to put it, Dragon. So I really do think the movie would have benefited from spending a little less time on each individual personality, because at the end of the day, I don't think the individual personalities matter as much as Eric Bana's character. Like, he is the heart of the film. He is the thing that we really are hanging our hat on.
Now, speaking of which, real quick, I just want to mention that phone call that he had with his daughter. He spoke to the phone with his daughter, and the dad, like the first one, some of her first words were dad.
Oh God, that's probably Eric Bana's best acting I've ever seen.
And I love what reaction. What he's doing in the moment there with the acting is he's realizing that he's become his father, distant from the child. That's what he's playing so well.
Sure, definitely.
So great. Okay, so now, again, basically with stuff like that on his mind and with what Carl said, again, he's trying to remind himself, because basically after his heart is broken by the realization that he's away from his family, he's got to justify to himself in his mind. This is just the way I read it. He's got to justify himself, why am I doing this? Therefore, cut to Munich. Reminding himself, okay, what's fueling the fire? Why am I not with my wife and child right now? Munich.
I think that's a fair argument.
And again, I gotta say, just with the go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I'm probably gonna say what you were gonna say. Just the framing device. It is a really good framing device. We literally blow the load of the framing device, but we'll get there.
Come on, we'll get there. Oh, wait, why you gotta make it dirty?
Because the movie makes it dirty.
I know. But why can't you say? Okay, anyway. Okay, anyway.
I like everything about this framing device except for the way it ends, Dragon. I'm sorry. I'm with
you. Okay, we're simpatico on it, buddy. We are. So anyway, I like too that essentially he's in the prison of his own mind with the mission. Essentially, it's kind of what we're doing with this segment of the kind of the event. So I think it's very fitting, once we come out of this here, once we get back to the Carl situation, I think it's very fitting that Carl goes first after, we hype up the massacre again. So again, we see the massacre. So again, like it's like the Godfather thing. Something a little off happens. Our guy's thinking about Munich again. Again, the people who are about to perish, and then we cut to the realization that one of our guys has perished.
Sure.
Of course, now going forward, Avner's operating without a moral compass because we literally killed the moral compass of the group. So again, like as we go forward, he's losing more and more of himself.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we go from such a little fun callback to horror of realization, like, oh, that lucky guy I saw her first. To the realization, like, oh no, Doors open. And I gotta tell you, so going forward, we have two full frontal nude scenes in this movie. I like that Spielberg is not. Again, we'll get to your thing when we get to it, but again, we don't. Anyway, we'll get to there. We'll get there. My point is, we don't. It's not nudity without purpose. You know, it's we see like a cold indignity that is going to be repaid later once we get revenge. Again, the whole movie based around revenge is like the whole point of this little splintered off, thing of whittling down the team is to see the corrupting nature of revenge that we can't just write off as, oh, the Mossad told them to kill those people. This is a kill that's all on them. Like, they want revenge after they've been given a taste of revenge by the Mossad. So, like, we're taking they're taking the loophole out of the equation where their friend was killed and just kind of left bare and just insulted. Like, they had no dignity in his death. And, like, now, of course, it's going to be, kind of repaid in a really kind of haunting way later on, too. Poor Carl. Look at what Banner's doing here in this scene too. So he yells into the blankets and everything. It's a good moment.
Yeah, it's great. And it really is like the first moment where he's just kind of like, I mean, he's been feeling the pressure of this mission, Dragon. He's been feeling the mounting like pointlessness of it. But then actually losing a man in the midst of everything, it really does kind of just bring home exactly why this mission is, a little bit on the fucked up side, Dragon. It really is. This is not a happy-go-lucky, Jews kicking ass and taking names type of situation here. It's very black and it. Yeah, I know it's Hunters, Dragon. I know it's Hunters, all right? I get it. Seth Rogen was about 10 years too early. With
that he was, friend. Yep. That's a great scene here. This is a wonderful callback with Papa, though. This whole thing where he comes as a show of respect. Now we reveal that he's there. Louis basically as a show of that they were not behind, essentially this assassin who was the woman, the Dutch woman. This was not them, but they do act in a world of intersecting secrets. I love how he put that there. These intersecting secrets where, again, he informs them that people are hunting you because they're kind of on to what you've done after the Beirut job.
Okay, so now clear this up with me, Dragon.
Okay.
The Dutch woman is working for the group that they're targeting. Am I right?
Yeah, working for, probably hired by the Arabs. Yeah, pretty much.
That's what I figured.
The Palestinian group that they're going after. Yeah, so pretty much. Like the idea is like they know people are after especially after this and the hoopla when the Russians got killed, the whole shooting that we just saw. The last job, not the London one, the last one went that they succeeded in, but it left a lot of mess. They're on to them now, definitely. So they've see again the photos showing that I was they're dealing information to those guys, and they're giving the heads up that you guys you should basically after you get revenge on this they gave it to. I love that they gave the information to the Dutch woman who killed their friend as a gesture of goodwill and as a show of respect in business, free of charge. This is wrong what happened. We're somewhat culpable. We didn't do it intentionally, so we feel really bad about it. It was a nice gesture. I just want to say this too. I think it was a smart choice to make the killer a woman. By the way,
it was. Yeah,
add a little extra level to the murkiness of the whole affair because again, it's not just revenge. It's even more questionable the revenge that gets taken. How we accentuate the sexuality of it all too, which just makes it even more horrible. So again, poor Robert here. He just doesn't have the heart to go on because again, this is Robert frames the big point of the whole film right now. Again, the whole righteousness of the Jews and how this is the whole counterculture revenge. Because again, this one does not have the loophole where we can't. This isn't us getting we've been trying to get justice. So it's revenge. The Mossad is trying to make a point, trying to get revenge. But no, they framed that as getting justice eye for an eye. Well, this is absolute revenge.
This scene is it very much kind of goes off the rails of the original mission, for better or for worse. And Dragon, my only issue with it is that I feel like I wish there would have been more repercussions other than there's kind of a slap on the wrist of oh no, you shouldn't have done that, but I'm gonna let you get away with it anyways.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately the realization is that, again, this is totally different from the mission where really the sad fact of the matter is, no, this is exactly what the mission is, guys. It's just you're actually making the choice of your own volition now. So that's kind of basically the wake-up call is this job they're on right now, this whole, this is the wake-up call. Also, I just kind of noticed this for the first time. I love the part of the bike was the gun that Hans uses. I kind of missed that. He took a piece of the bike off, and that's like a little pop gun that basically the gun that you hit the back end of to shoot out the bullets, like one of those. Yeah. So the houseboat scene. Good location, by the way.
Oh boy. Lots of houseboats in this movie, Dragon. It's kind of a running motif.
Yeah. Look at the old-fashioned silencers of the 70s, too. We had, do the whole song and dance thing, they screw on the really long silencer of the thing.
Right.
Which I love the tension here, too. Oh, God, is she going to, again, she's trying to distract with the sexuality. Oh, God, thankfully these guys aren't going to fall for it.
Yeah, no. That's another moment that I give to Daniel Craig. It's literally the moment that she starts to use her sexuality, Daniel Craig's like, oh, hell no, I'm not having none of that. Bam, you dead bitch.
Yep. As much as I love the original RoboCop, there is a moment where it does not go like that.
I love this, really quick, I love this moment where she kind of goes over and strokes the kitten before she dies.
Yeah. And as much as I love RoboCop, the original one, there's a moment where essentially it's don't look down at, don't indulge the sexuality, and the character does, and it leads to the bad stuff happening.
Oh no!
One moment though, it's a small moment, but it's oh, but why I have to proceed such an important moment in the movie? So this is what I'm talking.
If you've ever been on the Indiana Jones ride at Disneyland, you know all you have to do is fucking don't look into the eyes of the idol, Dragon. It's just that simple, and everyone does, and it always pisses me off. Anyways.
So again, right now, this bit here, I love that this gets called back to, where again, it's not just nudity just for the sake of nudity. It's the show, she left our friend in disgrace, we leave her in disgrace, and again, Hans regrets this moment of his kind of callousness later on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, during this scene, actually, yeah, the little kind of cooking scene. Again, food. More food.
That's what I'm saying, man. These guys are really into their food. It's it's basically how they bonded in the first place.
But again, I'm going to draw my connecting points here. Again, it's kind of like when he was cooking with Papa there, and again, the kind of the coded conversation. In this case, it's kind of the code, the intensity of the cutting of everything there. I don't know. It's a little.
Sure. Look, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I mean, I'm as big of a foodie as anyone, so I appreciate that these characters can legitimately have bonding over that.
Oh, it's good. Yeah, I mean, I like that. My point is, we're doing that again, but now it's a little bit more dramatically framed with the lightning and everything and the candle.
Right. Yeah.
Again, it takes on an intensity. And again, with the last scenes, here's the last scene they have with Hans. What Hans says here about his regrets. Basically, now we're framing Avner's regret through Hans here of the regrets of the actions you've taken just out of revenge.
Mm-hmm.
So you've done what you've done, but you wish you weren't so callous about it. Where again, it's losing yourself. When Daniel Craig, when Steve here, he tries to kind of cushion the blow by saying, "You weren't yourself. Don't put that on yourself. That wasn't you. You weren't yourself." And again, as we're saying here, Avner will not be himself by the end of the movie.
Yeah. And then, of course, the issue of the replacements, which I really do think is probably one of the most horrifying notions of the whole movie. This whole thing of man, it literally is just no matter what we do, it's the idea of respawning video game enemies. It's just you can kill as many Koopa Troopas as you want, but there's going to be a Koopa Troop to come back to take its place.
Oh yeah. I love that, the loss of Carl has set Avner off the deep end. He's a complete 180 from where he was at the start of the film, where he was just told by, Ephraim, hey, you're going to have to kill people. Well, I've never done that before. It's well, kill them all. Well, then I guess we'll keep killing them. Yeah, here's talking about the whole house code thing. Oh, man, you weren't yourself. And again, that's what I'm saying. Daniel Craig has nice little moments like this, too, where that's what's frustrating about it. It's oh, Craig, I know you can act, buddy.
Dragon, I don't necessarily think it should be frustrating, the fact that this character doesn't necessarily have a big moment. I think he serves his purpose.
I mean, he does. It's he does.
I really think you're just kind of projecting because it's Daniel Craig and you want to see him have a big moment.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I guess you're right.
It's like you got to realize the time period here, man. This guy, like Daniel Craig, at this juncture, man, he's lucky to get as much screen time in this movie as he does. You know, I'm sorry, but he's kind of a nobody actor at this point in his career.
Post Road to Perdition, he was really good in that. I don't know, but I guess you're right. He doesn't have the big carte blanche yet, maybe. Yeah. Well, he's a year away from it, really, because I think 2006 when he did the Bond movie. So.
Right.
You're right. The point being, he wasn't there yet. Okay, so this is so sad, seeing like Hans be doing this beautiful silhouette, like look, kind of almost like a Mike Ehrmantraut, like looking out against the sights.
Uh-huh.
So earlier, we had our last scene with Robert earlier on too. So he's not going to reunite with him there, but he's he just kind of had his moment where his eyes were open about the course of revenge and everything. And I love how we shoot this scene where now the paranoia is setting in.
Yeah, and this is basically where we get into Act 3, right?
Yeah, this is where so? It's hard for me to pinpoint the acts in this, but yeah, pretty much.
It is hard for me to pinpoint the acts. I would say that the death of Carl is the low of lows. That's the only thing I can really pinpoint.
I guess it's either like, I don't know if I put it like Carl onward or after Carl. I think after Carl's probably a smart way of going about it. Yeah. The way this scene is going to pair the editing of this scene here, where I believe Michael Kahn doing the editing, Spielberg's usual editor, his usual guy. So what we have here is, as he's getting more paranoid, he's like checking, and basically he's tearing through the mattresses looking for their own pressure bombs. Like he doesn't looking for everything. Of course, very odd that's a pressure bomb given who's about to bite it next. We have poor Robert here. So look at all the toys that he's built here, out of wire and the bomb making materials, everything. And of course here Robert's about to meet, and then the question is, was it by accident because he was such a terrible bomb maker, or was it by sabotage? Because they're a little ambiguous about that.
Uh-huh.
I think chances are it was sabotage. I mean, he could be a terrible bomb making there, so he's not an idiot. But again, we're fueling the paranoia with something like that as well. So we're showing that again there is a danger.
Checking under the bed for bombs and stuff like that. Yeah, for sure.
Knife and everything. Look at all that C4. He's kind of asking for trouble. Let's be honest. Looking for that pressure bomb. Looking for maybe knives or something. I don't know.
This is the haunting thing about this movie, Dragon, is that this guy, like you said, he came into this movie essentially just being like a foot soldier almost, hey, your father was a war hero, so you have to live up to your father, so we're just going to throw you into this really messy, really politically divisive situation. And then he loses his soul in the process, Dragon. He really does, in a very profound way. Not in an evil kind of way, but more in just the, kind of Tony Soprano, kind of like he'll never be able to live his life not looking over his shoulder.
Yeah. Of course, looking through everything. Again, it's a nice callback to all the different bombs that they've had in the movie, because they're looking through the TVs, like the TV bomb and the bed and all the, that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Robert, don't do it. Just run. Run. Oh, why do we have to kill the Frenchman? We always have to kill the French.
It's a fact. It's a fact.
Yeah. It's a tragedy. So basically, with the loss coming up here of Robert and everything, basically the loss of essentially not counting Steve, like the last person in the group here. I think Louis is given a little bit of sympathy play here, because basically he's learning about all these deaths and everything. And again, he is somewhat in correlation with these deaths. He's learned about it through the information trade. And he basically gives him he gives him salami out of pity almost, because basically he wants him to rap get the big guy then go home, all right? Because again, I've kind of grown fond of you. I don't want to see you dead. Just do this and go home, man. Just get the big guy and get the big fish and go home. Go on, Ahab.
Mm-hmm.
So basically now he's getting the phone call that Robert has blown up. Look, I just love the instantaneous. Like, he just puts the ear up to the phone, like, oh god, bad news. So again, this whole meetings place is kind of like a symbol for home as well. As kind of Louis frames it too, like, hey, like maybe you could have a home like this, like a kitchen like this at your house.
I will admit this movie does do a good job of conveying information without dialogue. We just get the phone call, his reaction, the meeting place. We don't really need to spell out what happened. We just saw what happened. So that's pretty good on the movie's part, economically speaking.
Certainly. So now Louis, after I love we lose one Frenchman, we gain the other as a friend. At this point, fully Louis does actually like the Avner character. I mean, he's grown. He got past his little rivalry, his little jealousy. I love this bit where he says, "You pay better than anyone." Basically, he's confirming that we can still do business together. Like, I'm not taking out your guys here again. It's just you guys are being targeted now. I can't help that.
Uh-huh.
Again, he's like the guy who planned the namesake of the movie. You can get him. Go get him. Go home, man. Sounds simple. In reality, not so much. But again, I love Vanna here really understated him saying I do, Louis. I want to go home after this. Just very straightforward, just saying yes. I want to. He's lost so much on this mission. All three of his guys are dead. I want to go home. Basically, if he can get Salami, he can justify that it wasn't all for nothing. We got the guy responsible now.
Right.
We know that's going to
go. Eventually, we're going to get him in the post-credits text.
Yeah.
The pre-credits text, I should say.
Well, you know what I mean. Okay, so now we're seeing essentially what would be the last job if it went okay. And again, again, it's just down to him and Steve, who again who was the most gung ho about all the guys here. It's like, okay, it's just you and me. The guy who had no real moral compunction about if we take out some spare Arabs, let's do it. And remember, he earns a lot of respect from him too from this job because Steve gives him a glowing review at the end of all this when he has to report into Ephraim and the superiors. He says, "Oh yeah, he speaks glowingly of you." So yeah, he really does respect. Mm-hmm. He was a little dodgy with Avner there, where he's saying nice leadership. Hey, where again, you see, he did grow a friendship with him and everything. Again, we don't really see that, but we talk about it afterwards. And again, you see, it's implied. I don't know, you get enough of it, I guess.
Sure.
Okay, there's Salami. Got in the cool sunglasses. That guy.
Yeah, spent a lot of time building him up.
Yep, I mean, we could just shoot him and run to the high heavens and get out of there. Again, still, look at all those mirrors. That ain't good. That's not going to help. But what could possibly go wrong in this scene? Remember that kid from earlier? The one that you saved? Well, funny.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Okay, this is all horrifying. Now, can actually, so let's talk about the scene. So originally, this is not what happened.
Oh, yeah, that's a chunk, man. That's a chunk that blows out of that kid's head.
I love Bannon's reaction because he recognized that kid in that moment. Like, oh, God, not only did I shot the kid. I botched the whole thing, but I shot the kid I saved earlier. This is him showing how far gone he is, and he's realizing it now. So he's really haunted by that kill also. So in real life, this is not what brought the operation to a close. In real life, they went to a place called Lilyhammer. I think it's Lilyhammer. Anyway, went to Lilyhammer, and essentially there was collateral damage, but it wasn't like a kid that very cinematically we spared earlier on. We brought back. Kind of extraction style.
I would hope not, because those kind of things only. Oh God, it'd be like if. I'm not even going to joke about it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
My point is, there was a random waiter. It was a random casualty where basically there was this waiter that they kind of killed by accident in the operation, and that's what kind of got him to go home. So, I mean, again, I do like the setup and payoff of that. And again, it really does show, again, a man who's just had a kid himself, this is really going to affect him. It's going to stick with us. I don't mind the alteration. Just some people are really bothered by the fact they didn't go to Lilyhammer Vault. At the very least, they can go. I don't know, some people are just bothered by it. I mean, the people who are, especially the Mossad, but then again, you ain't going to please them with anything in this movie, let's be honest.
I mean, I just think this movie's playing so fast and loose with everything anyway. Yeah. It's like, what's one change in location?
That's
That
what
is
I'm saying.
far
But again,
from the
this
most
was.
offensive change in this movie.
I mean, look, I hear it. But to be fair, I mean, this was like literally like the big ends of the operation, so that's why they were bothered by it. But either the point being, you're never going to make them happy. Let's be honest. So it's a point. It's a lost
Uh-huh.
cause. So I hear you absolutely. So this is a great scene too here, where he's just you see how affected he is from the start of the movie. Where he was like casually walking with Ephraim, and now he's supposed to give the debriefing here, and he is just done, man. Especially later on, with like when he's about to stand up, you get to really see it on Banna here, where he's just like he is not responding to Ephraim at all. Where Ephraim saying, "Oh yeah, Steve loves you, man. He gives you a glowing recommendation," and the idea too is that Steve he spilled the beans, which is not good.
Why
Steve
would
spilled
Steve
the.
have to go and spill the beans, Dragon?
Well, there I go for just giving an old colloquial.
Okay, I didn't
All right.
do the voice this time. I didn't do the voice, all right?
No,
I said the line, but I didn't do the voice.
All right, okay. Fair enough. Anyway, so what we're showing here again, this is like kind of highlighting the whole like he kind of did it all for nothing in a way here. Where after everything this guy's been through, he lost 3 of his friends, he had to kill people where he's usually not accustomed to that. Do all this stuff, and all he gets at the end of the day, spelled out to him by this guy, no medal, just a pat on the back. Yeah, the prime minister couldn't even be bothered to be here. Just pat on the back. Good for Israel. Good job. And that kind of breaks from this scene a little bit.
There is no medal or anything.
Again, I love this kind of
he
like.
seems a little too happy about the fact that there's no medal.
Yeah, but I just love how if you look at Banna in this scene, like now he's standing up and looking like the 1,000-yard stare. Like this guy, that was the last straw.
Yeah.
Where he's just kind of realizing like all of this for this whole conflict, everything.
It's just like fuck this, man. I have been used as a human chess piece in this whole thing. This is ridiculous.
And this is what brings back my favorite scene here. I love that he's basically told to sell out this French contacts. And they showed him a lot more civility and kindness than essentially the Mossad have here. So that's kind of what's like. And also, he doesn't want to sell his guys. He doesn't want to betray the trust or anything. So he's like, no, I'm not going to tell you. Right. And he has the great like. I love the reason, the rationale why he doesn't have to tell him. I don't work for you, which is true. He doesn't because he's a non-entity because he signed away himself. It's like, yeah, I don't work for you. I don't exist. It's great. So this is what I'm talking about. This is the scene that it's a good scene. Don't get me wrong. This feels like after all the build up to the father, you think he'd go to his father to kind of relate his troubles to him. But I don't know. That just me, I guess.
I don't. Like I said, Dragon, I feel like at this point in the movie, introducing another character would be a little bit too much. And we've already established the mother. We already have the connection to her, and especially the whole, like, oh, you look more like your mother than your father and everything. Like, I think it works. And we don't even know if the dad's, like, do we know that the dad's not dead?
I mean, they give the indication that he is still in prison. I mean, bear in mind.
That's what I'm saying, Dragon. We'd have to like do a whole prison location and that.
No, wait. Actually, wait. I know that he's alive because Ephraim says he's alive at the end. No, I'm sorry. Go on. I hear your point, though. Yeah, you're right. That we would have to establish.
But like I said, we'd still have to like visit the prison, and that would be a whole ordeal. And
maybe. Maybe. I hear your points, Tiki. We did establish the mother. It's a nice scene, though. I'll give it that. It's a nice scene.
Yeah.
Again, the fact that
but I like how she doesn't want to know.
He's willing to.
Yeah. That's the heart of the character right there, and I do like that, and I do like that we punctuate that at the end.
And basically, she's trying to cushion the blow that he learned the hard way, that it was all in a sense kind of for nothing. Where she's saying, no, it wasn't for nothing. Home was sacred. She's basically kind of glorifying why home was sacred. Yeah. And basically, it's a really nice thing that while I'm raising the possibility that we could have seen the father, by the same token, I love this whole thing where she says, like, I prayed for a child in Jerusalem, and I was granted that, and that's why it's a spiritual place. That's why it's basically in this one scene we did establish what I was kind of missing throughout the whole movie, like why is home so special? Why is it so sacred? And that scene does give voice to that, so I will give it all the points in the world for that moment.
All right.
I love the baklava as a runner here. He's just trying to do olive branch by bringing him the baklava, and it's kind of the rejection of the baklava too.
These two characters are about as close as we have to an odd couple in the movie.
Yeah.
Even
Well, I
though
mean,
they're definitely not a traditional odd couple, but they are the two that are sort of like at odds with each other, ideologically speaking.
yeah, I mean, the only other odd couple you could argue is Avner and Carl because they really are diametrically opposite. But I mean, in terms like a meaningful thing, only happens certain like only like 3 scenes in the movie. Then yeah, I guess they would be. You know, the two of them are really the odd couple of the film, given we end on them. So yeah, I think you're right.
Right.
But yeah, basically in that moment with the baklava, I love like the very. It's kind of this. I call it the scene of two no's, where you have like the start of the scene where he says no to him, and then the reverse of it by the very end of the movie there, where it's it's the Abner chooses to deal in revenge no longer after the scene with his mother. Now he returns to his family.
I just remembered the scene that we have to sit through still.
Well,
I'm sorry. It's coming up, Dragon. It's coming up.
Yes. But again, right now he's worried about the stillness. The stillness is driving him nuts. We're about to see it in full force, but the fact is he's home, but he's still holding a gun. Which again, look at the poster, look at the image. Man holding the gun in home, looking out the window. Paranoia.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Dragon, there was no way to market this movie. This movie is one of those movies that's just impossible to market.
Which again is why they didn't bother.
Watching it, exactly. Like even watching it a third time, I still don't exactly get all the nuances of this movie. I mean, this movie is rich and it's deep. I'll give you that. It's almost a Rubik's Cube of different themes and ideas and complexities.
Certainly. Okay, here we go. This is a really good scene here. This is the big paranoia scene of the film here, where he's just walking along with his daughter. Ain't that cute? Little puppet on his hand. Doesn't get cuter than that. But of course, any car is making its way. And again, what do you think? Do you think he's being followed by this car?
I do not.
I don't think he is either.
That's the way I read it. The way I read it is essentially like it's kind of like unfounded paranoia. It's kind of just like, oh boy, just like it's PTSD almost is what it is.
Yeah, because I don't think anyone's looking for him personally. I don't think anyone's really gunning for him.
Yeah,
and we don't have any ominous text at the end saying, and then he was found, and then he was put in the witness protection. None of that, so he's fine.
Exactly.
Bear in mind, I didn't do a deep dive on the research on that end of it, so I don't know what happened to him afterwards. Of course, they changed the name of the movie too. By the way, it was something else. It was so Abner Kaufman is not the anyway. That window goes down. I just love like the panic that strikes him. He's taking cover and everything. It's like it's
yeah.
Gotta love the location of the phone booth. I know they're completely outdated now. We don't have them anymore, but I mean, come on, man. It was always like a great little location.
Well, do you remember the movie Phone Booth, Dragon? Now that you bring that up.
No.
With Colin Farrell, you don't?
No.
Oh man, that's a good-ass movie where Colin Farrell's basically being held hostage in a phone booth where it's essentially the 13 Reasons Why season 4 premise of like, oh, do not hang up this phone. Do whatever I tell you to do.
Or again,
he's stuck in a phone booth the whole time, Dragon. So it's legitimately compelling.
So you mean he doesn't leave that phone booth for the whole movie?
No, he does not leave the phone booth.
Okay, that sounds interesting. Now you have my attention. But again, we have a table. That could be a movie to get back to here. Okay,
it's good. I think you'll like it.
Again, this is a nice little scene here too, with kind of gets closure from old Papa here, who again he knows who he is, which again is like it fuels the paranoia a little bit more. Like, how do you know my name? But he's still saying, I just love like I think about you with concern. That's a really nice line. And then he says like no harm will come to you from me. He promises from me, but again the from me lights a giant fire under the paranoia fairy here, where it's like, oh god, it's like the open-endedness of like from me is what, like, from who else then? It's not from you. But again, says I do love like like the French aren't going after him for the whole government thing. Or again, even though Steve sold him out, and again like they don't have enough to go after him probably because Abner he did the dealings. That's how they're kind of insulated from there. So Abner did rat on him. So that's anyway. Then we have now he comes off.
Phone booth is available on Hulu. Get on it.
Oh, okay. Well, I might keep you on the line for a while just to we get. I don't know. I might watch it. I might not. I might watch something else. You don't know. Anyway. So yeah, I don't know what Avner was thinking with this plan here. He's firing from the hip emotionally. He's like threatening to kind of tell all about everything here, which to leave his family because I don't know really was anything like that. I don't think the Mossad was ever going to go after him. But that's the point. It's all paranoia.
Yeah.
So, what's your favorite scene?
Oh God.
Okay, so no. Okay,
Greg, I watched this movie twice, and I legitimately had to fast forward through this the second time I watched it.
Well, here's the thing. I
just don't. I just don't. That's my statement on this. I just don't.
Okay, so here's the thing. When I was watching it for the first time, I was just really taken aback by like, wait, what are we doing? Like, it's like I think I get like what I don't know what Spielberg was thinking with this bit, man. It's like,
it goes on for far too long. It's at the very end of the movie, so it's one of the last notes you're left with.
It's like it campy is not the word, but there's something. It's like if this were in like a lower budget movie, or like in an '80s movie, it would feel like a really weird, like maybe a film of the '70s. It feels like we're kind of pulling from here, where as the man enters his quote unquote home, he is thinking about the reason he's there.
Oh God!
And anyways,
just.
I think I get what he's trying to symbolize here, but it's not a good idea.
I think the point of what he's trying to symbolize, Dragon, I think the point of this mess is that, he can't live a normal life. He can't, he's always going to be focused on it, even during intimate moments.
Yes, that's the whole, you're right, that is the point. Yeah.
But did we really need to go so intimate with it?
Here's what I think it was a mistake, right? The fact, he's making love with his wife, and then we cut to what he's thinking. But here's the problem: the constant intercutting during the throes of passion was the big mistake. It should have started with he starts to do the intimacy thing, and then we cut to the thing, and maybe cut to the aftermath. That's all. I don't know.
Yeah,
that's exactly. As far as he should have. If you're going to do that, that's as far as you push it.
I'm sorry, Steven. I'm sorry, buddy. I love you. But it literally looks like he's getting off to the Munich situation.
Which I know, and that's the weird thing about the scene. It's like here's the thing. Here's the problem. It's the biggest scene of the movie in one respect, and that again we're seeing the massacre. Which again he debated putting this in the movie, but again, you're showing the massacre show again that he's affected by it, and again he's just haunted by it.
I hate it. I legitimately kind of hate it. Honestly,
the fact is, again his mind is still on the mission being the operative point here. Even though he's at home, he just can't get his mind off the mission, which again is impeding on the intimacy.
Why? Why does he have to be literally having sex in this moment, though?
The thing that really is bizarre about this too is like there's no real resolution to it. Where again, I think the fact there isn't a resolution where it's like, hey, this is probably still going to be a problem for him. Like, there's no solution to this at the end of it, but still, like, I want closure. I don't want like an open-ended thing with a scene like this. Come on, man.
That's what I'm saying, man.
I don't feel comforted by the "I love you" at the end of the scene.
It's one of those movies. This is one of those movies. It just the ending just really doesn't do it for me, man. It really kind of falters on the last note.
Yeah.
And I think the final scene with Jeffrey Rush is fine, but I don't think it's like amazing or anything. I don't necessarily think it salvages this.
Yeah. So again, the other thing, again, I'm going to pardon I hope no one's going to take a dirty pun out of this, but I'm just going to go for it. So again, the idea is he just can't come home like the victims. So again, the hostages couldn't. The victims, again, I said don't let your minds go there. But it's the fact that he couldn't let his victims. The hostages could not go home, but our guy did go home, and he can't come home.
Right.
The fact that he is home, and again, you want to emphasize the symbol of home being the family. Like you said, his wife and his daughter are his home, and again, he can't enter it without, yeah. Right. I will say this though, again, in a different movie, again, I don't know, different circumstances, one like the Munich massacre of all things. I got to admit, the way we intercut, just to give credit to the filmmaking, again, it doesn't belong here, but the way we did, like we have like the like firing of the machine guns, like lighting on his face in this dark room. That looks really nice. Doesn't belong in this scene, but it looks really nice. Anyway, like the strobe light effect. That's anyway. Okay, so that's over.
Oh dear God! All right, I'm so glad we're towards the end of this thing, Dragon.
All right, so we have like the other side of the double no scene here, and again, importantly, we are actually in of all the locations they did get. They actually did go to Brooklyn, New York, as you tend to do.
Oh,
I mean, why not?
Nice.
So we actually are in New York. So we have basically this is the big kind of where we leave off here. We're giving voice. We had the big symbolic, fancy film school scene just now that kind of went belly up for the most part. Now we're actually kind of vocalizing the conflict here. Where he wants to know it wasn't all for nothing. He wants proof that he killed bad people. But again, the Mossad's really touch and go about the details of certain things. But Ephraim gives him his word. But again, his word doesn't count for much. So basically, it feels like Abner's trying to salvage his soul with all this too. By the way, he's trying to embody his fallen team members, like Carl here, when he's bringing up, like, "Hey, tell me, like, I want to prove Carl wrong from beyond the grave in a sense here. I want to know, like, the guy I was at the start of this trip still is in there, so I can get back to my family in a sense. But again, the fact is, like, he's not going to get closure from Ephraim here. He's not." It's kind of like, it's basically Ephraim is trying to give a point to the moral of, the question of, like, were the murders justified? Like, why couldn't we take him in alive? Which basically means if we took him in alive, we'd have hostages to be exchanged, like another, which could lead to another Munich. Basically, if we capture more of those, again, the whole point of Munich, at least for speculative, is that those guys wanted 200 of their prisoners in exchange for 11 of those athletes, which, again, if we take them in alive, we have a risk of something like that happening against you. You kind of see the point, but again, as we saw constantly throughout the movie and framed throughout the movie, all the news reports and everything, violence begets violence. Yeah. That's kind of what Spielberg's saying. It's like it's a muddy affair. You may want revenge, but it's not gonna get you there.
Draggy, can we just go into final thoughts? Because I feel like we've said out everything we need to say. I feel like...
Well, let me get to my last point then about the last shot of the movie. So let me
okay, fine. Right. I'm sorry. It's just this is a long ass movie. I really don't have anything more to add to the conversation here. I'm sorry. I'm kind of burnt out. Well, because sorry, I don't know what to tell you.
It's fine. You put all the energy into your little rant, and then like, okay, I put it all in the rant.
What little rant?
Yeah, your little rant about the bedroom scene.
Okay, well,
okay, anyway,
I'm sorry, Dragon. I just, this whole ending is just, I don't like it because it's essentially just like, exposition, like, this is the theme of the movie, and I'm just basically gonna vomit it to you. Like, Jeffrey Rush really does become just Mr. Exposition Man, and I don't like it, and what you were just sitting there, Dragon, I'm sorry, but what you were just sitting there talking about, it's like, it's good stuff, but it's so overly bloated. It's so many ideas. It's not just one idea to end the movie off with. It's so many of them. And that's what really annoys me about this movie. This movie is filled with great moments. It's filled with decent characters and a couple really good characters. But this movie is so far less than the sum of its parts for me, man. It's frustrating. It's a really frustrating movie because there's just a couple things here and there, pacing-wise, that really feel off with it. I don't know, man. I always don't know how to take movies like this, and I'm kind of rolling this into my final thoughts, and then I'll let you go. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead and talk about the last shot, and then I'll
All right.
roll into my final thoughts.
Okay, so again, after the whole, the two men offering the invitation home, respectively, the other half of that scene, like, he just can't do it. He refuses to break bread with them, like, again, like, per all that, like, you can't change the path that you're on, being that message. And of course, the last shot of the movie is we end on the Twin Towers, of course, digitally created, as you can probably imagine, which basically is to connect the whole parallel of the terrorism then and now. And of course, this is like an unintentional thing, I'm sure, because but again, it just seems so cosmic and weird that the first thing that pops up on the text is 9 of the 11 men were killed. 9 of the 11. It's like, oh god, that's haunting.
Oh dear.
So, point being, the conflicts are an ongoing problem, being kind of the last thing in the movie that's kind of gotten in there. Maybe not intentionally, but it's there. Okay.
All right. So, final thoughts for me, Dragon. I kind of was already like half into them, but it's a movie of good moments. It's a movie of great performances, specifically from Eric Bana. I think Eric Bana's arc is well deserved. But man, is this thing bloated, and man, does this thing not really know what it wants to be in some spots. And I'm sure that there's Spielberg fans out there that are just absolutely want to crucify me right now for saying that. But like when I look at the best of Spielberg, I look at movies that are just meticulously crafted from beginning to end. And I gotta tell you, Dragon, I know you're not a fan of Lincoln, but for me, at least with Lincoln, we know exactly what that movie's getting at. We know it's getting at the heart of his, his personal life, along with his, Lincoln is basically comparing, it's putting Lincoln's personal life up against his achievements in history and kind of comparing and contrasting the two. That's the point of Lincoln. That's the point that Lincoln's trying to make. It's like an anti-terrorism movie, but it's also like a pro-terrorism movie in some ways, because it's like do the ends justify the means? I don't know. Moral ambiguity. And I like moral ambiguity, you know this, but I feel like this movie is almost a little too morally ambiguous. And frankly, Dragon, I really don't think that this particular story is very cinematic and a very good thing to make a movie around, just because the resolution is like just so unsatisfying in real life, and there's not much you can do to write it. So why make the movie to begin with if it doesn't have a satisfying resolution? I mean, I get the point of the resolution is that it is unsatisfying, and that's the point of the movie. It's just frustrating for me, Dragon. It's just really frustrating. I understand everything that the movie's going for, and I like certain elements of it. It's definitely among Spielberg's more gritty films for sure. But yeah, at the end of the day, I'm not vibing on this. This is definitely not one of the Spielberg movies I'm going to go back to.
All right, final thoughts for me. Keep it simple. Again, I think it's a nice, underrated Spielberg film. For me, I do. It's problematic. Don't get me wrong. It is a little bloated. I will give you that. I don't think I'm as emphatic about the bloatedness as you, but I do say that. I think. Let me put it this way. That said, personally, I just have trouble getting into the movie. It's kind of what I said earlier, where again, like if I were to rewatch this, I'd have to carve it out for an event where like there are a lot of things I like about the movie. I like the whole theme of revenge. I still can't quite get into like the things we're fighting for and like all that sort of stuff. And it's just like, it's not that it's not an important issue. It's just like, there's just, it's not a movie that sucks you in, It's not a movie that sucks you in like if it were playing
I feel
on
like
TV.
this is what I'm talking about. Ideologically speaking, this movie kind of bit off more than it could chew.
Yes, and again, I like Spielberg doing a movie about revenge, and again, the through line of that is good, but again, the bloated aspects you're talking about kind of complicate that in certain respects, where again, it's a runtime issue.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, like the whole sucked in factor here, like again, it's not like it's not like the proper comparison being like a Private Ryan or something. But again, if I were to like look at any other movie from the Spielberg catalog, like a Jaws or Catch Me If You Can, like if I'm starting to watch a movie, I would be absolutely sucked into Catch Me If You Can. Like, okay, I see that, or the Terminal.
Dragon, I mean, even Schindler's List, the bleakest Spielberg movie,
and the longest
Spielberg movie, and the longest, even that has like. It's Oscar Schindler, and then we have, just the duology of the main characters. That's kind of the driving point. I mean, and this just does not have that at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's unfortunate.
So Munich, I think it cuts the mustard, but not in a way you want to go back to it. It's like Munich. I saw it. It was good. Could have been better. It was good.
All right, so next up, Dragon, we have Warhorse. Warhorse. It's a Warhorse, it is. And why are we watching Warhorse, Dragon?
Oh, because of some diluted running gag, I'm sure.
No, not even that entertaining of a reason. We're watching Warhorse because it's on Netflix and it's easily accessible. That's really the only reason. Let's be honest with ourselves.
Yeah. That too. For some reason, streaming services aren't really loving Spielberg at the moment. I don't know.
They really aren't. But yeah, we'll be getting to Warhorse next time around. If Dragon, I got to imagine the Venn diagram of people who are subscribed to this channel and who have watched the movie Warhorse is not a very wide Venn diagram. But, it'll still be fun nonetheless. And I'm sure it'll have plenty of running gags. But I told you the vow I made on Warhorse, though, Dragon. The vow I made on Warhorse is that I'm not going to do the running gag. I'm not going to beat it into the ground unless the movie itself beats it into the ground. It's going to rest on the movie. If what I've heard about the pronunciation in the movie is a problem, if it really does live up to it, then yeah, you bet your ass I'm going to jump on that. But if they only mispronounce it a couple times, I'll kind of just be like, yeah, okay, it's not that big of a deal. So we'll see how it swings out. Anyways, Dragon, I think that's about it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, folks, stay tuned until next time as we tackle Jesus Christ, 3 hours of runtime. That's what it does to you. Stay tuned until next time as we tackle another subject in the grim, gritty, wondrous, and whimsical world of Steven Spielberg on yet another thrilling installment of
Spielberg
Month. This podcast is exactly 3 hours long.